Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei and Rias Died Fighting Trihexa and Went Back in Time Part 9. Before we start, please go support Nico FS 2000 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. S2 Chapter 40. A day at the pool. A few minutes later, pool. All the girls were resting on their lounge chairs calmly, sunbathing. The clones had already finished applying sunscreen to all of them. Where is Ice-kun? Rainer asked. It's true, since the clones disappeared I don't see it, Kiara said to her partner's words. Wasn't he with Rias-sama? Asked Lefei, to which everyone looked at the Redeed, who was lying quietly, with her eyes closed, half asleep. No, Rias was with a clone, Akeno said. Hey, Zenobia is also missing, said Irina, looking for her friend. They think Zenobia-san and I-san, Asia said without wanting to finish. If Yufu Ice, Naya and Zenobia are having fun, Naya Kuroka said amused. Senpai doesn't change anymore, Kaneko said, reproaching her senpai. Knowing Ice-kun, he is going to take advantage of the slightest opportunity to sleep with a woman, said Pinemu, laughing. It's Ice-sama after all, I wonder if I supplant her perversion with Hexwell appetite. Ravel thought with a sigh. So we add another one, Murayama said nonchalantly, to which she received a disapproving look from her friend. How can they be so calm, knowing that this pervert sleeps with every woman he meets? Caddis asked exasperately. Because we love him, they all responded as one, while she received the understanding look of her friend. She knows that it takes little time to get used to the pace of life of her classmate teacher. Caddis-san, it's not okay for you to prejudge Issei, because you think he is surrounded by women, said Rias, waking up and entering the conversation. I don't know, it's something he didn't explain to me, said Caddis. Just as perversion makes who he is, it is not everything that makes up Haidu, Issei said. As you see, I have been in a relationship with Issei for approximately a year, but she was interrupted by the surprised scream of absolutely everyone. Whoa, they all said in shock, even Kiba came out of the water because of the scream. Like a year ago, Rias, your relationship with him was established in an abnormal and rapid way after you reincarnated him, Akeno asked, out of surprise, and if so, why didn't I know anything? I ask again. When faced with the black-haired girl's question, everyone paid attention to what the red-haired girl would answer. I didn't tell you anything because it was a relationship that we had in secret. I wanted to live a normal courtship with a normal boy, like two ordinary humans. That's why I decided not to tell him anything about the supernatural, Rias explained. You see, Caddis-san, Issei, he is a pervert, yes, but also throughout our relationship, I was able to get to know him thoroughly. All his positive things and his defects, among which I discovered something interesting, Gremory began to explain. Oh, this interests me, Naya said. Kuroka. What was that, Rias-senpai? Asked Murayama. Surely you will think that he jumped on me and we slept quickly in an early relationship, said Rias, to which the majority nodded in agreement, but Issei was not even close to what he is now. Despite being a pervert, he was very insecure about himself. He was shy and always missed himself, explained the blue-eyed girl. At those words everyone was surprised. Haidu unsure, Kata said without believing it. And shy, Murayama finished. Rias just nodded. He may have consumed all the porn and hentai in Japan in his few years of adolescence, but when it came down to it, he was insecure, naive and shy. He was only happy with my breast, said Rias, smiling wistfully. That the smile shown by the demon impressed everyone the most, but when it came time to move beyond the breasts, he backed away. I spent a long time trying to move forward in our relationship, however there was always something that separated us. I hinted at him many times, but even so we were never able to make it happen. It frustrated me a lot that happened, until some time after he became a demon. When I managed to remove all those insecurities and shyness, that was when we finally made it happen. Although I think that being part dragon it helped, it made him more proud of himself, the Redeed finished telling. Before what Rias said, the whole place fell silent, trying to process what was said. Wait a minute, if you were already in a relationship with him, why did he agree to go on a date with me? Rainer asked. That caught everyone's attention and interest again. Why not accept a request from a pretty girl? That's what she told me, Rias responded. When the black-haired woman heard it, she blushed slightly. You should have seen how happy she was when she told me, the blue-eyed girl said, smiling. But why did you allow it? Why didn't you try to stop our date? Rainer asked, confused. Because I would do it. The duty of a girlfriend, the duty of a wife, is to help her husband fulfill her dreams, Rias responded. Dreams? Asked the fallen. To be the king of the harem, that is Issei's dream, said Rias with a smile, and I will help him create the largest harem ever seen. At those words, everyone opened their eyes, impressed by Rias' look. Quickly that look it changed to a gloomy one. When I found out that his date was a fallen angel, I was very worried, but when I got to where he was lying there dead. Pierced by a spear of light in the stomach, said Rias, looking at Rainer with a sharp look, who was not able to keep his gaze. At those words Murayama and Caddis opened their eyes. The first knew but did not have the details, and the second was just finding out at that moment. I hated you, Rainer. A feeling of raw revenge flooded me. I felt as my heart was shattered. I felt like my world was falling apart. That day I understood that Issei was everything to me, that without him my life has no meaning, that before losing him, I would rather be dead, and if one day I do something so that he abandoned me, the next day he would take my life. If he dies, I will die at his side, said Rias. Tears came out of her eyes. Because although that story was not completely true, her feelings were. Glimpses of how they died in front of the Trihexa they came to her mind but quickly faded. Upon hearing those words everything was silent. Everyone was surprised by the love and need that Rias had for Issei. That day the other girls knew that love, devotion, loyalty and other feelings that Rias Gremory had towards Haidu Issei were unbreakable. The first thing I did when I saw him lying on the ground was to take out my evil pieces and reincarnate him. I refused to lose what I love most, and I clung to him with all my strength. At the end of the reincarnation process, we returned to his house. The next day I had to explain to him the reality of the supernatural world, and we began to train, and at the end of this story, he decided to forgive you, Rainer. Despite everything, he loved you, he loves you, and he will love you. The Redeed finished telling her improvised story. Upon hearing those last words from Rias, tears flooded Rainer's eyes and fell in buckets. You were her first love after all, she thought bitterly. Gremory, I see that you told them our story, said Issei appearing next to Zenobia. That's right, I see you were listening, the Redeed responded. The brunette nodded. Good story, quite believable, the brunette told him through his mental connection, although you keep in mind that if Gabriel is watching us, we cannot deceive her, since she has been taking care of the self of this time, since he was a boy, right? Issei asked seriously. Yes, I know, let's hope it's not like that, Rias responded in the same way, but then changed to a loving smile dedicated to the brunette. Thank you, by the way, it wasn't very difficult to create a cover story. You know I'm good with the words, said the Redeed. Thank you for all those beautiful feelings you have towards me. I love you more than anything. You are my greatest treasure, my love, said the brunette looking at the blue-eyed girl with love in his eyes. Upon hearing what was said, the tears they began to fall from Rias. She was happy, but quickly wiped them away and composed herself. Ice-kun, Rainer said through tears, going to hug the honey-eyed man. He received her with open arms. What's wrong, Ray-chan? Why are you crying? Issei asked worried, stroking the fallen girl's hair. Forgive me, Ice-kun, please forgive me, the black-haired girl said in tears. But forgive you why? The brunette asked, kissing the violet-eyed girl on the head. Forgive me for everything, for what I did to you. Upon hearing Rainer's words, Issei frowned, tightening the hug. He approached the lounge chair where she was lying. Sitting down, he positioned the black-haired girl on his lap, and she snuggles into his chest, seeking shelter, while she unloads. Ray-chan, I have nothing to forgive you for. I thought we had already overcome this stage of guilt, said the brunette, raising his head from the fallen one. He wiped her tears and gave her a kiss that transmitted all the love he felt for her. The black-haired woman responded. After a few seconds it deepened. Tell me something, Ray, do you love me? Issei asked, looking into the fallen girl's eyes, caressing her cheeks. I love you very much, with all my heart, the black-haired girl responded, but I don't deserve your love, she finished saying by lowering her head. Issei shook his head and raised Rainer's head. They both looked at each other. Eyes, and Issei gave him another kiss. Don't say that, you deserve my love as much as the others, the brunette said with affection in his voice. I love you, Rainer, Issei said smiling. Upon hearing this, tears began to fall from Rainer's eyes again. However, these were from happiness. Issei hugged the fallen woman tightly, and she clung to him with all her strength. While continuing to cry, you will always have a place in my heart. You were my first love after all. In a way, I am grateful that the Trihexa killed me. Thanks to that I can have you by my side, the brunette thought nostalgically. They spent a few moments hugging, and the black-haired girl's breathing calmed down, falling asleep, leaving her on the lounge chair. He went to where Penemu was. Zenobia said, Irina, approaching her friend. How were you marked by Ice-kun? The orange-haired girl asked her friend. I-san Marco to Zenobia-san, said Asia, who was next to Irina, seeing the red dragon mark. Yes, it was incredible, the blue-haired girl responded with a dreamy smile. When the church trio met. And well it counts, said the angel and ex-nun, dragging the bearer of Durandal. Meanwhile, Issei approached the cadre. Are you relaxing, Penemu-chan? The brown-haired man asked, amused, seeing the fallen woman lying down. Ah, this is so relaxing. I deserved some time like this, Penemu responded with a smile. Do you want me to give you some massages? Issei asked. Such a question surprised the black-haired girl a little. Would you do it? Asked the cadre with hope. Of course, I want to pamper you as much as I can, the brunette replied. The black-haired girl smiled happily and got up from the lounge chair, letting the honey-eyed boy sit down and then sit again on his legs. Issei quickly began his work. Locating, she put her hands on the cadre's shoulders and began the massage. Penemu felt very relaxed from Issei's touches. You are very good at this, Penemu praised the brunette. Thank you, you are very contracted, Issei said as his hands were surrounded by a grey aura, Senjutsu, and he began the massage with a MMMMA. Cadre sighed because of what Issei's massages made her feel. Are you using Senjutsu? The black-haired girl asked softly. Yes, it's quite helpful, right? Issei asked smiling. Yes, it is, replied the cadre with her eyes closed. Tell me something Penemu, after everything that happened, will you be one of my women? Issei asked, continuing with her work. Upon hearing the question, the fallen woman turned her head a little to look at him. Is the question necessary? The black-haired girl responded smiling, approaching Issei and giving him a soft kiss, which the brunette reciprocated. I'll take that as a yes, Issei said, separating from the kiss, looking into Penemu's eyes. They were like that for a few seconds, until she returned to how she was before, and Issei continued with the massage of his new partner. S2 Chapter 41. One moment and the Nekomata sisters. Hours later, Haidu residence bathroom. When Issei arrived home with the girls, it was already night and his mother was already waiting for them with dinner. Everyone ate pleasantly, telling their parents how they spent their day. After a quiet dinner with everyone, the brunette decided to take a break. Bathroom, and it is where we are currently. How relaxing the bath is, after a long day, Issei said with his eyes closed as he ran soap over his body and enjoyed the feeling of the hot water. Suddenly he felt two soft lumps resting on his back and two arms surrounded him. Chest, tensing it. He wants her faithful servant to wash his back, Aisama, a voice whispered in his ear, giving him chills. Kiara, Issei said, recovering. What are you doing here? The chestnut asked the demon. I just want to be helpful to my master, answered the orange-haired woman. Is it wrong for it to be like that, Aisama? She whispered again in his ear. No, Kiara-chan isn't, I was just surprised, that's all, Issei responded to his servant. If so, allow me to do this, Sama, said Kiara, smiling, grabbing the soap from the brunette's hands, spreading it on her breasts, and then beginning to wash her master's back. Does Goshijin-sama feel good? The orange-haired girl asked seductively in a whisper in the brunette's ear, who felt another shiver run through him, while he moved her breasts all over Issei's back. Yes, she does, the honey-eyed man responded with his eyes closed. A few minutes passed until the demon finished. Aisama is over, Kiara said, separating from him and throwing the soap into the water. Upon hearing her, Issei submerged himself in the water, removing the remains of soap, and then turned around and saw his servant, admiring her body, passing her eyes over her beautiful, soft, large breasts, ending with her wide hips, a transcendental figure, noticing that her master's gaze was on her. Kiara smiled, pleased. Would you allow me to have a date with you tomorrow, Goshijin-sama? The demon asked, while she sat on Issei's lap and supported her sensual body against his, making the brunette a little nervous. It was the first time that her tower had shown that attitude, although that did not mean that she liked him. Will dislike an appointment? The brunette asked, looking at his servant while she wrapped her arms around her hips, holding her closer to him, her faces centimeters away. Lemon skipped, please read it on website. Shall we continue? Issei asked, shortening the distance to give his servant another kiss. Aisama, Kiara said, smiling amused, while she put a finger on the brunette's lip, stopping him in the process. We can't continue any further, said the red-eyed girl with the same smile. Why not? Issei asked, confused. You're not going to leave me like this, are you? I ask again. If you want to defile this hexy mate of yours, you will have to wait until tomorrow, Goshijin-sama, Kiara responded, whispering seductively in her ear, while she moved her hips in her lap provocatively. Damn it, he can be so sensual when he wants to, thought the brunette. Kiara, wait a minute, said the honey-eyed man when he saw that his servant got up from his lap, but she ignored him and turned around to address him. Exiting the bathroom, with every step she took a provocative sway of her hips could be seen, leaving Issei fascinated. Wait, what happened to her? Can she do whatever she wants with my body, Goshijin-sama? I ask, already a little compassed. Fufu. The last thing Kiara heard before leaving was her funny laugh. Damn it, and now what do I do? Issei asked himself, lowering his head. Kiara-chan can be a real demon, she left me excited, and without anything, he thought, a little depressed. This must be the damn karma for thinking about someone else. Well, I'm in a moment with her, the brunette thought, giving a long sigh, and got out of the bathtub, wrapping himself in a towel. He left the bathroom to go to his room, since this time he did not use his bathroom, but another one in the house. Issei's room. Issei entered the room, closing the door. He was going to go to his bed. Welcome, Ai-senpai, Naya said, two voices, raising his head towards the two voices. He was impressed. Oh my Satan, the brunette said in a whisper. In bed, posing with a bathrobe and lingerie that was practically transparent, were the two Nekomata sisters. Kaneko-chan, Kuro-chan, what are you doing here? Issei asked, approaching the bed, sitting down. The white-haired girl in his robe quickly sat on his lap, looking at him tenderly, and Kuroko rested her breasts on his back. Well, Shirin wants to be marked, Naya, so we talked to Rias, and she gave us tonight, Naya, the black-haired woman explained. Is that true, Kaneko-chan? Issei asked, looking at the white-haired Nekashu. Yes, Ai-senpai, I want to be marked, Kaneko responded, bowing her head in shame. Issei smiled and raised his head from the Gremory Tower, looking into her eyes. He gave her a kiss on the forehead, making her blush. And what are you doing here, Kuro-chan? Issei asked, turning his head to look at the Nekomata. Moral support, Kuroko responded, smiling innocently, causing a sigh to escape Issei's mouth. You are taking advantage of the fact that your sister wants to be marked to have a night of passion, Kuro-chan Issei said smiling mischievously. Ifufu, you know me so well Ice Naya the black-haired girl responded, getting more attached to her life partner. Lemon skipped please read it on website. Shirin Kuroka could not continue, since her sister fell upon her, sitting on her to please her. The black-haired woman did not object and began to lick her sister's intimacy, realizing Kaneko's presence. The brunette gave her a soft kiss and began to stimulate her nipples with his fingers. The three began to please each other, getting lost in the minutes and hours, until they were exhausted. S2 Chapter 42. Kiara Ligos. The next day, the sun's rays entered the room, hitting Issei's face, disturbing his sleep. Slowly opening his eyes, he looked around and smiled. Both Nekomata sisters were sleeping peacefully, hugged in his arms, Kaneko in his right arm, where you could see the red dragon mark on her right arm, and Kuroka was imprisoning her left arm between her breasts, both with a smile on her face. Upon seeing them, Issei smiled and stayed appreciating them for a few minutes, until he noticed that Kuroka she was moving, waking up, opening her eyes. The black-haired woman yawned, passing her hands over her eyes to wake up completely. She looked at Issei with a smile. Good morning Ice Naya Kuroka said, greeting the brunette. Good morning Kuro-chan Issei responded. Both looked into each other's eyes for a moment and then gave each other a short good morning kiss. Senpai, a voice was heard to Issei's right, separating from the kiss. The brunette turned to see Kaneko rubbing her eyes, still waking up. How did you sleep, my pretty Shiraneko? The honey-eyed man asked with affection toward the white-haired girl, who had an imperceptible smile appear. Very good senpai the albino answered, the joy could be seen in her voice, just as she did with Kuroka. She approached and gave the white-haired girl a soft kiss, who reciprocated, then they separated and Issei left. He settled down and hugged both sisters by the waist, clinging them closer to him. I love you, my pretty kitties, Issei said, smiling. We to you they both responded, snuggling into his chest. Shall we go down to breakfast? Issei asked the two Nekomata, they nodded to what the brunette said. Shall we bathe together Naya? Kuroka asked, smiling mischievously. Nisama Kaneko complained embarrassed. That? The black-haired girl asked innocently, looking at her sister Issei, and I bathe together after a restless night Naya. If you don't want Naya, it's up to you Naya the Nekomata said to her younger sister. She looked at Issei monotonously. Is that true, senpai? The white-haired girl asked. Kaneko-chan as the brunette responded to his kohyui. Eyes perverted senpai said the albino without expression. Don't say the Kaneko-chan Issei responded feeling uncomfortable. Well, let's go to the bathroom, Naya said the black-haired woman. Issei nodded and they both got up to go to the bathroom in the room. Wait, I'll go with you, Kaneko said, getting out of bed and following her sister, and now her partner. The three of them took a bath. After a few minutes they left the bathroom, got dressed and went down to have breakfast. Residence room. There were all the girls and Issei's parents, having breakfast. At the table only Issei, Kaneko, Kuroka and Kiara were missing, listening to the noise of the steps. When they looked towards the stairs they saw Issei coming down with Kuroka on the right side hugging his arm, and Kaneko who was raised on Issei's left arm, while wrapping her arms around his neck. Good morning, the three said, greeting the girls and their parents. Good morning they said, returning their greeting. Then Issei proceeded to kiss all the girls, while Kuroka went to sit in her place. After greeting his women Issei sat down to have breakfast, placing Kaneko on his lap. How was the night? Rias asked. Agitated Naya said Kuroka smiling. How do you feel cat? Ravel asked the Nekomata. I feel very good, little bird, I feel complete Kaneko responded with a slight smile. You seem happy, Kaneko-chan, she said, looking at the white-haired girl. I am Asia senpai the Nekasha responded. They all smiled at the answer. And Kiara? Issei asked, not seeing her tower on the table. Kiara-chan hasn't come down yet Serafel responded. The brunette only nodded at her response. Here he comes, said Zenobia, watching the Aligos go down the stairs. Good morning Kiara greeted those present. Good morning everyone said again. You don't usually get up late, did something happen Kiara? Irina asked, curious as always. It's nothing Irina the orange-haired girl responded, receiving Issei's indecipherable look, walking towards the table. The red-eyed girl realized Issei's gaze and smiled flirtatiously and stood a few meters from his chair. They both looked at each other. Eyes for a few moments, everyone realized this and was surprised. Kiara's smile widened. Is something going on Goshijin-sama? The orange-haired girl asked in a flirtatious manner. Upon hearing the mention, Issei's body trembled slightly. I didn't know that turned you on, Goshijin-sama Tiamat said amusedly in the brunette's ear, which didn't help him. The only thing I will tell you is that tonight I will pay for what you did to me yesterday Issei replied, compassing himself. Ifufu, I'll be waiting anxiously for that moment, Aligo said laughing, continuing on her way to her chair. Ara, did something happen between you? Akeno asked with her typical smile. Let's say that Ice-kun, I played a little yesterday in the bathroom, and I left him without a prize the orange-haired girl answered, amused. So that's why Ice Naya was so aggressive yesterday. I should thank you Naya, it made me reach heaven, Kuroka said with a dreamy smile, remembering the night before. The Iligos smiled back at the black-haired girl. You don't call me Ice-sama anymore? Asked the chestnut looking at his tower. Do you prefer me to call you that? Ice-sama asked with a provocative tone. Issei's body trembled again at his servant's response. Damn, he's probably enjoying what he's doing to me, Issei thought, watching Kiara sit down to start eating breakfast. Ifufu, it's so fun to provoke him, I can't wait for tonight, thought the red-eyed girl, watching her master's reactions. So you will have a date with Ice-sama today? LeFei asked Iligos, who nodded. You're going to see what outfit to choose, said Rainer. Everyone nodded with a smile. Thank you girls, Kiara thanked. By the way, Rias, I would like Kiba and Kaneko to help Caddis with her sword and resistance training, so that she can get her magic teacher, Issei asked, looking at the Reteed with a soft look. There is no problem for me, Ice, Rias responded, smiling at the brunette. Trust my Ai-senpai, I will help her the best I can, Kaneko said seriously. Issei smiled and caressed the white-haired girl's head. Surely Murayama will also join to strengthen himself even more, apart from helping her friend and starting to familiarize himself with her sacred gear. The brunette spoke again. Both Rias and Kaneko nodded. Don't worry about both the training and the learning on Ravel's part, it will be carried out, Rias said calmly, so that the brunette wouldn't worry. At what the Grimmery said, Ravel nodded. That left Issei calmer, who he smiled. After the talk, breakfast took place normally. Afternoon living room of the house. It was already hours of Sunday afternoon and Issei and Kiara's date was minutes away from starting. At this moment Issei, who was wearing a plain red t-shirt, black jeans, sneakers that matched the t-shirt and a jacket of the same black as the pants, he was in the living room of his house, waiting for Kiara to come down, who was getting dressed, with the help of the others. A few minutes passed when he saw a beauty coming down the stairs, with a red t-shirt that hugged her figure, which made her eyes of the same color stand out, a classic jean, which highlighted her hips, black sneakers and a coat of the same color. It was Kiara Ligos in all her splendor. When Issei saw her he was amazed. The demon smiled when she saw the brunette's face and approached him. It seems that we have similar tastes in clothes, Kiara said comparing Issei's clothes with hers. Upon hearing it Issei reacted and looked at her tower at her face. Well, how do I look, Ai-sama? The orange-haired girl asked, leaning forward flirtatiously, looking at Issei's reactions with a smile. You look beautiful, Kia-chan, Issei responded, swallowing hard. Ifufu, you look very good too, the red-eyed girl responded, interested. Are you ready? Issei asked, giving her arm to the girl. Of course, Kiara responded, holding Issei's arm. After that exchange of words, they left the house, being watched by the rest of the girls from the stairs. Kuo City. The couple of demons were walking through the streets of Kuo, enjoying the comfortable silence in which they were walking. Where are we going, Ai-sama? The orange-haired girl asked, looking at the brunette with eyes shining with excitement. Well, we walk around the city, we go to the shopping center, amusement park, you choose, Issei responded to his companion. Lol, said Kiara with an unknown gleam in her eyes. And there goes my money, the brown man thought in resignation. Spend me, spend me, spend me, a voice was heard echoing in Issei's head. Shut up, Drake, Issei said to his dragon companion. Ha 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 ha, the Welsh dragon laughed, mocking his companion. I seriously need a source of income to replace the dragon op-eye, otherwise I will fall into poverty, I will be poor, the brunette exaggeratedly said to his companion when he finished laughing. Come on partner, don't think about that and concentrate on giving the demon a good time, Drake said to his partner. You're right, Drake, Issei responded and then cut the connection with his friend and looked carefully at Kiara. She's so beautiful, the brunette thought, beginning to caress the girl's cheek, capturing her attention. Both of them they looked into each other's eyes and the orange-haired girl was about to speak but was intercepted by Issei's lips, surprising her, but she quickly responded by closing her eyes, enjoying it. The kiss was soft, delicate and affectionate. What was that for? Kiara asked when they separated from the kiss. I needed it, Issei responded. Hearing it, Kiara smiled and began to caress his cheek too. They quickly gave another kiss and then separated and headed to the shopping center mall. The couple walked through the hallways of the shopping center looking at the shop windows and other things of interest. Where do you want to go? Issei asked the orange-haired girl, who smiled maliciously. Let's go to the lingerie store and then to the clothing store, said the demon, smiling. You like lingerie too much, don't you? The brown man asked with amusement. Don't you want me to model Ai-sama for you? She asked in a seductive whisper, causing Issei's instincts to go out of control, but she managed to suppress them. I didn't say that, Issei responded quickly. Come on, she said again, starting to walk. Ifufu, Kiara laughed, holding the brunette's arm, walking next to him. It feels good to see what I can generate in him, the smiling red-eyed girl thought, and so the couple entered the lingerie store, so Kiara tried on several outfits. How does Ai-sama look? Kiara asked, coming out of the fitting room with a white lingerie, showing herself to Issei and from time to time leaning seductively towards him. Meanwhile Issei was sitting in a seat observing with a smile the parade that his servant was giving him. "It looks very good on you," Issei responded with all the composure he could, "but don't you think that white is not a color that suits you?" I asked rhetorically. "Ifufu, you're right," Eligos responded amused, returning to the fitting room. A few minutes passed and she came out again. "And how about this one?" she asked as she posed for her king. The outfit was red with black details. "It gives me one that Rias would wear," the brunette thought, analyzing the outfit. "It looks wonderful on you like everything else," Issei responded smiling. Kiara smiled back and went back into the fitting room to try on a few more outfits and ask her opinion. Issei, in the end Kiara bought a couple of outfits and then they went to see clothes and it was more of the same, where the brunette enjoyed his tower thoroughly. After that they both left the shopping center. Streets of Kuo. Both demons went out to the streets of the city and began to walk through it, going to the center, passing through the park. They toured the commercial area, spending their time walking. "Ai-sama, did you mention something about an amusement park today?" Kiara asked, looking at Issei. He just nodded his head. "Can we go?" the orange-haired girl asked excitedly. "Of course," Issei responded, smiling at the girl, who smiled back. Then they both headed to the amusement park, where they toured it for a while. "Look at Ai-sama, the bumper cars," Kiara said with emotion. "Do you want to go?" he asked, amused by the excitement of his companion. The red-eyed girl only nodded with excitement, to which they both went there, where the orange-haired woman devastated everyone. You could even see some overturned cars when the two left the attraction, Kiara with a happy smile and Issei with a nervous one. Ai-sama, the roller coaster," the red-eyed girl said enthusiastically, pointing to the attraction. "Let's go there." "Yes," the orange-haired girl asked. "Huh?" Issei broke out in a cold sweat and turned a little pale upon hearing his tower's request. "Let's go, Ai-sama," Kiara said again, dragging the brunette towards the roller coaster. Swallowing, she prepared herself for what was to come and stood alongside her partner. They both got on the attraction, where Kiara was laughing and having fun, and the brunette took her. He endured like a man. When leaving there you could see Kiara with a smile that would break his face and an Issei a little dizzy. After that the couple continued touring the park, going to the different attractions. When they left there Kiara could be seen with a few stuffed animals in her hands, happily walking next to Issei. She quickly teleported the stuffed animals to her room, just like she did before with her clothes. "And now what is Sama?" Kiara asked as she hugged her arm, putting it between her breasts. "We're going to dinner, Kia-chan," Issei responded. The orange-haired girl smiled and snuggled closer to the brunette. After that exchange of words, the two headed to said restaurant. Upon arriving, Kiara could notice that it was not very luxurious, but it was not a normal one either. Upon entering, she realized that a table had been reserved. They were both taken to their place by a waiter, where he gave them each a letter and they looked to see what the place offered. A few minutes passed in which they both read the letter, so they decided to order something to drink and a ticket to start what they were coming for. With these orders, the couple began to talk, getting to know each other better, having a pleasant chat. Minutes later their order arrived, to which both demons began to enjoy their drinks and the appetizer they ordered. When they finished it, the two decided that it was time to order the main dish. Calling the waiter, the couple asked for what they wanted to eat. The wait for this lasted longer than what was previously ordered, but both demons spent time in their conversations, getting to know each other. Time passed quickly, so when they least expected it the food had already been brought to the table. As for this, it turned out to be delicious for the couple. Not as delicious as what they made at home according to Issei, but it was not bad. Besides the food made at home he always had something special, so they ate quietly for a few minutes. At the end of the meal, they returned with their talk, having a while after dinner. After a while, Issei asked for the bill and then paid and left the restaurant and headed to the restaurant. To home. "Thank you for today, Ice, I had a lot of fun," Kiara said smiling. "That's nothing, Kia-chan, you know I would do anything for any of you," Issei answered sincerely. The orange-haired woman smiled fondly and began to caress her king's cheek. Both looked at each other for a moment and then collided their lips together. A sweet and affectionate kiss. When they separated the two hugged each other. "I needed this," Kiara said, resting her head on the brunette's shoulder. "You deserve a prize. How about we continue what we started yesterday?" "Goshijin-sama," she said in a seductive whisper while biting his earlobe, making Issei shudder. "I'll get even for yesterday, Kia-chan," Issei responded, kissing her neck. "Ifufu, I can't wait, let's go home," Kiara said as they both resumed their path to the Haidu residence. Haidu residence, Kiara's room. The couple entered the girl's room. At the moment of closing the door, Issei put a hand on it and a magic circle appeared soundproofing the room. The brunette exchanged glances with the orange-haired girl, who was already a couple of meters away. Laughing with happiness and joy, Kiara ran towards Issei and jumped towards him, wrapping her legs and arms around his waist and neck respectively, giving him a deep kiss. Before this action, Issei had to hold the girl's body by her thighs to stabilize her. Accepting the kiss from the beautiful demon, approaching the bed, he laid her down, intensifying the kiss. Issei took out the orange-haired girl's shirt, and there is the brown-haired one. After a few moments the two were completely naked. Separating from the kiss, Issei began to explore Kiara's body, passing through her body and reaching her breasts. Lemon skipped, please read it on website. We continue, Kiara said, changing her smile to a provocative one. Of course, Issei replied, smiled. With the confirmation of the two, they both merged in a night full of passion, love and lust. D2 Chapter 43. Open classes. The next day, Kiara and Issei slept peacefully in each other's arms, their bodies perfectly connected to each other, both with a smile on their faces. But everything has its end, and this came when the sun's rays began to enter the room. Feeling discomfort, Kiara began to move. Passing for a few seconds, she opened her eyes and rubbed them with her hands to wake up. Wanting to get up to stretch, she couldn't. When she analyzed her surroundings, she realized that Issei was hugging her waist. Looking at his face, she saw how he was sleeping peacefully, caressing her cheek. The orange-haired woman smiled lovingly and snuggled into his chest, hugging him. She spent a few minutes enjoying his warmth and began to kiss the brunette's chest with love and affection, moving up, placing kisses on his neck until she reached his lips. After a few moments, she noticed how her lord began to reciprocate the kiss, so it intensified, and Kiara put her tongue in Issei's mouth, twisting it with hers. Both exchanged saliva with each other, enjoying their kiss. However, due to the lack of air they had to separate. Kiara opened her eyes. As she did so, her red eyes met Issei's honey eyes. Good morning, Isama, Kiara said, smiling. But Kia-chan, Issei responded in the same way. How did you sleep? The brunette asked, seeing how her servant snuggled into her chest again, clinging tightly to him. Better than ever, Isama, the demon responded happily. And you? Kiara asked, getting up to look at her face with happy eyes. Seeing the enthusiasm and joy in her pretty servant, Issei smiled fondly. Very well, my beautiful servant, said Issei, caressing her cheek, shortening the distance. They gave another kiss full of love, affection and affection. I love you, Isama, Kiara said, separating from the kiss. I know, Issei responded, looking at the mark in the shape of a red dragon on the right arm of his tower. I love you too, Kia-chan, he said, looking at the orange-haired girl again to give another kiss. Shall we take a bath and go down to breakfast? Asked the brunette. The red-eye nodded. They got up, bathed, dressed, and went down to have breakfast. Residence room. The girls and Issei's parents were putting the table and the food on it for breakfast. After doing so, they all sat down, waiting for Kiara and Issei to come down, although if you looked closely at the older Haidu, you could see them with an unusual smile on their faces. After a few minutes they could see Kiara coming down the stairs with a radiant smile and Issei, who was hugging her from behind, both huddled together. Ara, they seem happy, Akeno said with her typical smile. They are very sweet, don't you think? Rainer asked ironically, to which some of the girls nodded. Good morning, the couple said in unison. Good morning, everyone greeted. Then Issei began to greet all the girls, while Kiara was going to sit down to start eating breakfast. How was Kiara, Naya? Kuroka asked, smiling mischievously. Wonderfully, answered the orange-haired girl, smiling dreamily. By the way, son, are you ready for today? Miki asked his son. What is today? Issei asked doubtfully when faced with his mother's question. Today are open classes, you didn't forget, did you? Goru said, asking rhetorically. Upon hearing what his father said, Issei and Rias turned pale and briefly exchanged glances. Classes? Open, said Ravel and Faye nervously. Did you tell your parents about these classes? Rainer asked. Both nodded, making the fallen girl laugh briefly. I don't think my parents are coming, they're in England, LaFaye said, compassing herself a little. Keep telling yourself until you believe it, LaFaye senpai, Kaneko said monotonously. Open classes? Serafal asked, confused. Relatives are going to see how their children work, didn't Sona tell you anything? Said Rias to the Mayu, who opened her eyes in surprise. So she didn't tell me anything, the black-haired woman responded to the red-haired woman. Why didn't she do it? The Mayu asked, pouting with tears in her eyes, as if she were a child. When she saw her reaction, Issei smiled fondly. Maybe Sona doesn't want you to go, Serafal-sama, said Rias with sympathy for the black-haired girl with pigtails. Then I'll go see Sotan and show him my mastery as a magical girl, said Serafal, returning to her usual attitude. It's good that my parents are in England and they don't know about this day, said Irina, breathing a sigh of relief. Thank goodness Griselda is not here, Zenobia said in the same way. Ifufu, we will also be supporting Asia-chan, Rainer-chan, Kiara-chan, Irina-chan and Zenobia-chan, Miki said smiling, to which her husband nodded. Odo-sama, Oka-sama, please don't embarrass us, said Asia, embarrassed while the others had nervous looks. Ifufu, I'll also go see Ice, said Tiamat, amused. You too, Tiamat. Issei looked at the dragon astonished, who only laughed with amusement at her companion's expression. When the blue-haired girl calmed down, she only nodded to what Issei said with a little seriousness to show that he was serious. Issei just sighed. in resignation. After breakfast streets of Kuo, Issei and the girls were walking through the streets of the city, heading to the academy for a very busy day. Comrade, I have to tell you something interesting, Drake spoke through his connection. Tell me, partner, Issei responded to his partner. Do you remember what I told you some time after the raiding game with the Phoenix? The Welsh dragon asked its bearer. Do you mean the changes in my body? The brunette returned the question, understanding where his tenant was going, who nodded. As you know, your human body that you are currently in was going through a dragonification process by the power of Great Red, and Office explained the dragon, to which Issei nodded. The process is finished. I congratulate you, partner, now you don't need another body, said Drake with joy. I see, Issei responded calmly. You don't seem very surprised, mate, maybe you had already noticed it, Drake said curiously. They were just assumptions, but I realized when Arthur threatened me with Caliburn, his sacred aura did not cause me the discomfort or damage that it would have, explained the brunette. His tenant only nodded. Besides that, all the evil pieces in your body were completely powered by your soul, said Drake, informing again. Perfect, it seems that to the training with Tannen in these 2 weeks before the meeting, in addition to focusing on the dividing gear, I will have to add those 2 aspects. Right now it will be easier for me to manipulate the power of Office, and the training to control the power of Great Red, said Issei thoughtfully. How do you feel about that, by the way? Drake asked, interested. Well, if I try hard I can control 20% of his power, answered the brunette. You could acquire interesting abilities, and when you control the power of Great Red, your abilities will increase greatly, said the dragon seriously. But, there is always a but, isn't there, Drake? Issei questioned his partner. You must be careful so that the Office of this time does not discover you. Now it will be easier for her to do so, replied the Welsh dragon seriously. I know about her, Issei responded, sighing. Although we should prepare for an eventual meeting with her, Issei said to her friend, who nodded in agreement. What about Great Red? Asked the chestnut. I wouldn't worry about him, Drake said to his bearer reassuringly. Why not? Asked Issei, curious. In the dimensional gap there is no time, if you know what I mean, Drake responded with a peculiar tone of voice. Doesn't time exist? He asked thoughtfully. A few moments passed in which Issei realized it and opened his eyes in surprise. Why did you never tell me about this information? Issei asked seriously. You never asked, Issei sweated at his partner's response. At some point we will take care of that, said Issei, receiving another nod from his friend, and then returning his attention to his surroundings. As he did so he saw that they were already arriving at the academy, however he noticed a familiar presence. At the same time directing his gaze towards said presence, he saw a white-haired man waiting for him at the entrance to the academy. Upon seeing him, he began to approach Issei, who stopped and stood in front of the girls, some of whom became nervous and others serious when they recognized him. Seen his appearance during the fight with Issei. Sekiruite, said the white-haired man, standing in front of Issei. Akiryuku, Issei said, looking at each other, a smile escaped their lips. It was a good fight we had, said the bearer of Albion, still with his smile. It was satisfactory, the brunette responded in the same way. I would like us to have a friendly rivalry without incident, said Issei, giving a touch of seriousness to the talk. Who knows, only time will tell us that, answered the albino. But well, tell me, why did you come, Vali? Issei said, smiling again. I was just passing by here and decided to come say hello, the aforementioned responded. Tell me something. Hi to Issei, there are a lot of powerful beings in this world. Among all of them, what position do you think you are in? The white-haired man asked, staring at the brunette. Who knows, I won't know that until I fight with all those powerful beings that you say. Don't you agree with me, my rival? Issei responded, his smile widened due to the topic of conversation. Ahaha, Vali laughed with joy upon hearing his rival's response, and could not help but disagree. You are absolutely right, the only way to know is to fight, and being the 2 celestial dragons, who knows where we end up, said Vali with battle spirit. We will see each other another time. Hi to Issei, said Vali before starting to leave. See you, Vali, Issei said, watching his rival leave. Then he looked back at the girls and saw that some of them were a little nervous. Don't worry, everything is fine, we weren't going to fight here, Issei said, smiling at all the girls, trying to calm them down. The girls, who were nervous, smiled back at the brunette, now feeling calmer. Kuo Academy, Issei's hall. All the students were there along with some of the parents waiting for the teacher's instructions. For today's class, you will use the molding clay that I distributed to do whatever you like, said the teacher. All the students had said clay to mold on their benches, but what caused intrigue was that Issei had an excess, must have asked for more, was what some of the students asked themselves. Everything is valid, animals, houses. Capture what comes to mind in the purest way, the teacher said again, so all the students began to shape what came to their minds. Whatever comes to mind, Issei said thoughtfully. Asia-chan, girls, you can do it, said a voice. Both Issei and the girls looked towards the voice, and to their shame, they saw how Mickey was recording the class with a camera. Pei-chan never did something like this, but I know it will surprise us, said Layla Pendragon about her daughter, to her shame. I should have assumed that Okasama and Odo-sama would come, Lefei said in resignation, to which Issei stroked her hair and gave her a comforting smile, which she returned to pay attention to her clay again. What should I do? Issei asked himself, last time I made a sculpture of Rias, but now it's not just her, there are also the others, you could say that I have become a harem king Issei thought, when he started to ramble in his thoughts, regarding him and the relationship he had with each of the girls. Oh, everyone's astonishment was heard, that's Haidu murmurs began to be heard, and he is surrounded by beautiful girls he continued listening, Issei came to his senses and looked at his clay, surprised. The sculpture he sculpted is of himself sitting on a throne, with Rias on his lap and the other girls who made up his harem. Around him, quite close to him, the peculiarity is that everyone was with a smile. Issei looked at the girls who are in his class, and they all returned a loving smile, while the rest of the class was impressed by Issei's ability. And to think that Issei would have such ability, said Tiamat who was also in the room, looking at the craftsmanship made by Issei, while he smiled fondly like his other harem sisters. And to think that he would have something more special than his libido, Goru said with impression. He turned out to be a very ostentatious artist, he said with emotion. It is a great work, said Uther, nodding towards his son-in-law. At one on Haidu's lap is Rias Onasama, said a somewhat impressed student, seeing Issei and the various girls with their characteristic clothes in the sculpture. There is also a Keno Onasama, said another girl. And those are Irina, Zenobia, Asia, Lefei, Rainer and Kiara, said other boys, looking at those mentioned and at the sculptures comparing them. Even Kaneko-chan, Ravel-chan and Kuroka Onasama, said others. And there are some that I don't recognize, said another student. Hey, Issei, I'll change the sculpture for you, said Mitsuda. I'll buy it for you, I'll offer you 5,000 yen, Motohama said enthusiastically. I offer you 7,000, said another student. And to think that he knows the body of his women so well as to translate it into clay, thought Murayama, looking with different emotions at Issei's work. To capture his harem into a sculpture, I wouldn't know whether to feel admiration for how the girls are captured or disgust for the thoughts that Haidu had to do it, Caddis thought in an internal conflict. I'm sorry, but it's not for sale, Issei said seriously. Time after Academy Courtyard, there were all the girls including Tiamat and Issei looking at the clay sculpture of this. It is very well made, said Rias having the sculpture in her hands. Ara, just as expected from something made by Anada Akeno said laughing. When we saw him do it, I think she spoke for everyone when I say that it moved us, said Rainer. When her classmates heard her, they nodded. It wasn't that big of a deal, I just put my thoughts and feelings into clay, Issei said, downplaying the matter a little. It was very nice and thoughtful of you, Ice-san, he said like this. To think that Ice Naya would have our bodies memorized so deep in his mind, Naya Kuroka said in a funny tone. It was kind of cute, Ravel murmured, but Issei still heard her and turned to her. Do you really think that Ravel? Issei asked the Phoenix, who became nervous at her words and gaze. I'm just saying it because it's very well done, it's not that I like it or anything like that, Ravel responded, looking away with a small blush on her face. Seeing her reaction, Issei smiled and put a hand on her head. Caressing her, deepening the blush on the blonde Phoenix. It makes me happy that you like Ravel-chan, Issei said in a whisper in the ear of the aforementioned, giving her a nice smile. The magical girl of voice was heard, capturing everyone's attention. Let's go like the old photography club, we have to take it in our lenses, said another voice when a crowd of boys passed by where Issei and the girls are going towards the gym. It seems that Sarah-chan started doing her thing, Issei said smiling. Let's go, said Rias, to which everyone nodded and headed towards the gym. Serafal was on a stage doing various funny poses while a crowd was taking photos of her. If you asked her, she would say that she was having a lot of fun. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Saji asked, standing in front of Serafal. Today we are in open classes, go away and don't make a fuss. But the boys' voices were heard in unison. We're just taking some photos, said a boy. This is an outrage on the part of the student council, said another with indignation. None of that, disperse, Saji said with authority, to which the crowd began to disperse without any choice, cursing the blonde and the student council. Excuse me, Serafal-sama, but you can't be doing this in our academy, Saji said with the greatest respect that could. Is that so? The Mayu asked innocently, the blonde just nodded. And also you can't come with that outfit, Saji said again with as much seriousness as he could. But I like dressing up as a magical girl, said the black-haired girl, pouting. Sorry but no. Hello, Sarah-chan. Saji's speech was interrupted by a voice. When they turned they both saw Issei and the girls. Ice-chan, said the Mayu with pigtails, throwing herself into Issei's arms. Ice-chan, so Tanspawn-chan is mean to me, he doesn't like my outfit and says I can't wear it here, said Serafal, complaining like a girl, making Saji sweats. At that point the eyes of the brunette and blonde crossed, so that later the honey-eyed man put more strength into the hug with Serafal. Don't pay attention to him, my queen, Saji is not someone who can be asked a lot, and he doesn't have a great sense of taste, or why do you think he is alone, Issei said to the black-haired girl in a comforting way. The Mayu just nodded and attached herself. even more in the chestnut chest. Well, I'm sorry for all the men not being like you, damn womanizer, Saji said with disgust and indignation in his voice. A few moments passed for Issei to pay attention to him. Did you say something, Saji? Issei asked indifferently, the blonde Citri sweated at the way in which he was ignored. What's happening here, Saji? A new voice was heard in the place. So, Serafal said happily, going to hug her sister. When he saw Sona said surprised, struggling to get her a little away from her. What are you doing here? He asked once they separated. So she was mean to me, she had the whole weekend helping me with my work and she didn't tell me anything about this day, having to come and find out from Ice-chan and the girls, said Serafal, pouting, reproaching Sona. If I didn't tell you about this day it must be for a reason, Sona murmured. However, she was heard by her sister, who pouted again. And why are you wearing those clothes? Asked Sona stoically. Hey, is there something wrong? The Mayu asked innocently, posing in front of her sister. Oni-sama, here I am the president of the student council, I can't allow you to have that attitude and those clothes, Sona said exasperated. But you know how much I like magical girls, answered the black-haired girl with pigtails. Continuing with her poses with the swan, she defeated the evil one, she said again. At this point Sona was looking at the ground while clenching her fists. No, I can't stand it anymore, Sona said impatiently, starting to leave the place. Wait, Serafal said, following her sister. Stay away from me, Sona said, but the Mayu did not listen to her and continued chasing her. I think I'll have to stop them, Saji said with a sigh. Don't worry, I'll do it, I'm the only one who can calm Sarah down, said Issei. The blonde nodded gratefully and addressed the student council. Then a magic circle appeared next to Issei, from which a clone emerged, who nodded and he went after the Citri sisters. Then Issei looked at the girls, and everyone left the place. But Sona was walking through the hallways of the academy, followed closely by her sister. So, let's have some sister time, Serafal said happily behind her little sister. Just stay away from my Oni-sama, the youngest of the Citri asked exasperatedly. So, Sarah-chan, Sona Kaichu, a voice was heard that the two recognized. They turned around and saw Issei running towards them. Ice-chan, Haidu-kun, said the Citri sisters looking at the brunette with curiosity. What are you doing here, Haidu-kun? Asked Sounda curious. Oh, Saji was going to come to stop their little fight, but I offered to do it, since I'm the only one who can convince Sarah when something gets into her head, the honey-eyed man explained, receiving a nod from Sona. And a pout from the Mayu with pigtails. But Ice-chan, I want to spend some time with Sotan, said Serafal, throwing a tantrum. At that Issei approached her. I know, my queen, but now is not the time, Sona is very busy, said the brunette, taking her cheeks with his hands, beginning to caress her. Upon hearing this, the Mayu lowered her head a little, but Issei quickly raised her and gave her a shake. Kiss on the forehead. Go with the others, we're about to go home, let me talk to your sister a little, Issei said softly to the black-haired girl with pigtails, who nodded. It's okay, Ice-chan, Serafal responded, looking into his eyes, while she wrapped her arms around his neck and they both touched their lips affectionately. See you later, Serafal said happily, leaving the place, leaving Sona and Issei alone. Thank you, Haidu-kun, I didn't know how to get her off my back, Sona said gratefully. The brunette just nodded and there were a few seconds of silence. Sona, the brunette called, to which the black-haired woman paid attention. You shouldn't be so hard on her, he said as calmly as possible, so as not to upset his sister-in-law. I know, Haidu-kun, said Sona with a sigh, but her attitude and clothing exasperate me too much, said Sona looking at the brunette. I know that, you are very serious and she is very outgoing and active, their personalities tend to clash, said Issei. Sona was a little surprised by the description, but still nodded in agreement. She just wants to spend some time with her dear sister, maybe you can allow it for her to get closer, Issei said seriously. I know that her personality makes you impatient, but patience is a virtue. I know that you don't hate her, in fact you love her a lot, I only ask that you give her some time to spend together. In this world we live in anything can happen, and who knows if something happens tomorrow, and you regret not having taken advantage of the quality time with Serafal, the chestnut man finished explaining. Leaving a thoughtful Sona, you would have seen how sad his voice sounded when he found out about this day, and that you, his beloved sister, did not tell him. It broke my heart to see him like that, Issei said. This caused a pang of guilt to appear in Sona's heart. I'm sorry. Please don't apologize, I don't want to cause guilt in you for my words, I would never allow myself that, I just want to make you see your behavior towards her in a different way, Issei said gently, putting his hand on her shoulder. Sona raised her head to look Issei in the eyes. They both looked at each other for a few seconds. Haidu-kun. Please tell me, Issei or Issei interrupted her again. Ice-kun, regarding the above, I don't think anything will happen to Oni-sama being under your protection, said Sona looking at Issei with a longing shine in her eyes. To her and everyone, including you and your nobility, Issei said with a smile, surprising Sona for a second. To me and my nobility? Sona asked, compassing herself. Yes, after all, we are family, and just like Surzich's, you are my beautiful sister, and just like the Gremory, the Citri are also my family, and I will protect and take care of them with my life, Issei said with determination. His words made the girl blush a little. Serious Citri, this was caught by Issei, and he smiled amused. Oh, you look very cute when you're embarrassed, Issei said amused. Don't say things like that, Sona shouted, making the brunette laugh. I was just joking, said Issei, being serious. Those faces you make when Serafal is present don't suit you, Sona said Issei, delicately caressing one of the Citri's cheeks, receiving her gaze. You have changed a lot since you became Ria's ice-kun servant, Sona said with a soft smile at the brunette. I hope it's for the best, Issei said, smiling. It is not an unpleasant atmosphere to be around you, but rather a comforting and safe one, Sona responded, smiling. What can I say, my relationship with Rias and the girls changed me, I saw that there are more important things than just lust and depravity, said Issei, looking into Sona's eyes. I see you are much more reliable, said Sona, leaning lightly on Issei's touch, still with her smile. I feel good about paying to be able to bring a smile to your beautiful face, Sona, Issei said, smiling, making Sona blush slightly. Ice-kun, Sona said, getting closer to Issei. Both were centimeters away from each other, looking intensely into each other's eyes. There is only room for one of the Citri sisters in Ice-chan's harem, don't get close to him, the words her sister told her hovered in her head, making her frown. Something happens? Issei asked, surprised. Sona shook her head and quickly hugged Issei, taking him off guard. After a few seconds he reciprocated. Ice-kun, Sona said, separating herself a little from the brunette to look into his eyes. Still hugging, Issei looked at Sona so that she could dislodge him again by giving him a kiss on his cheek. Thank you for everything, from now on, take care of us. Yes, the Citri said with a sweet smile. Issei looked at her captivated for a few moments. Sona, Issei said, caressing her cheeks with his hands again. I said Sona, their faces came closer, their noses collided, and their lips were millimeters away from doing so, while they looked intensely into each other's eyes. It doesn't matter what it is, if you need me, let me know, and I'll help you in any way I can, Wani-chan, Issei said, smiling, giving the Citri a kiss on the forehead, who blushed when she realized the situation that almost occurred between them. Her sister's boyfriend and her. Well, see you, Ice-kun, Sona said nervously, quickly leaving the place. Issei smiled and then disappeared into particles, sending her memories to the original. But Issei on the other side of the academy. Issei and the girls, with Serafal accompanying them, were walking through the hallways of the academy when Issei received the clone's memories, causing him to raise an eyebrow. Did something happen? Rias asked, noticing her fiancé's expression. It's nothing, just that my clone had an interesting talk with Sona, Issei responded a little nervously. I can imagine what you mean by interesting, please tell me you didn't overdo it with her, said Rias almost in a plea. None of that, things got a little passionate, but it didn't get to that point, Issei explained. It's okay, although you know that I wouldn't mind sharing you with Sona or someone from her entourage, Rias said with a sigh. I know, but I also know Sarah-chan's position, even if it's not very firm, the brunette replied. I won't make any moves, I won't get involved in Saji's relationships. That doesn't mean I won't accept them if some girl from the Citri entourage or Sona herself falls in love with me, Issei said again. I understand and it seems fine to me, the Retid replied. Oh, Issei, a voice was heard in the hallway. Looking there they saw Goro Haidu, along with Lord Gremory, Phoenix and Pendragon. Odo-sama, said Rias, Ravel and Lefei. How are you, Rias? Ravel, Lefei, her parents responded. What are you doing together, Odo-sama? Lefei asked his father. We just met and decided to talk a little, Uther responded seriously. An interesting situation arose, don't you think, Surzich's-chan? Serafal asked seemingly out of nowhere. I think so, the red-haired Mao responded, coming down the stairs, capturing everyone's attention. Nai-sama, said Rias looking at her brother. Hello, Rias, the Mao greeted. Well, what do you think if we continue the conversation in our house? Goro said to the rest of the men present, who nodded in agreement, without noticing the reaction of some of the young people who were in front of him, some like Issei, Rias, Ravel, Lefei and Asia. Nod again, Rias thought in resignation to what they would experience in a while for their parents. Calm down, said Issei approaching the Retid, hugging her trying to calm her down. Rias just leaned on Issei's body with happiness for feeling her security and tranquility. Haidu residence. Not again, said Rias embarrassed as she hit herself with her hands. After meeting her parents, everyone came to the Haidu residence to continue hanging out and she, the girls and Issei were a little away from the others. Adults, who were in the room eating and drinking. Oh, how much food, said Zeodicus looking at the food. She looks very rich, said Lord Phoenix. I wonder if Mickey-san can pass me the recipe, said Lady Phoenix, tasting the food. He is very rich, said Benelana, receiving the nod of Layla and the Phoenix matriarch, all while they watched the recordings of her children on television. He has a beautiful house, by the way, said Uther Pendragon to Goro. Oh, we owe everything to Gremory-san, that's why I want to take this opportunity to thank them properly, Gore replied smiling. No problem, we try to do what is best for Issei and Rias, Zeoticus replied, smiling. Oh, Asia is so cute, Mickey said with emotion. Lefei-chan is so skilled, she came out to me, said the Pendragon matriarch with amusement. Let's see the recording of Ravel-chan and then that of Rias-chan, said Lady Phoenix smiling. Okay, Sama and Tasama embarrass me, thank goodness that Ani-sama is not here, said Lefei, wanting to go into a hole out of shame, receiving looks of sympathy from everyone. Oh, Ravel-chan is so pretty, said Lord Phoenix happily. She is very skilled, our pridey continued saying with a smile. Sam, you idiot, Ravel muttered embarrassed. Now let's see Rias-chan, said Venelana putting on the tape. No please, Rias whispered with shame. Oh look, Rias-chan is so cute in the video, said Zeoticus. Oh, Ria-tan is answering the teacher's question correctly, Surzicha said smiling. I can't stand it anymore, Ani-sama you always have to be such an idiot, said Rias, running out of the place, going up the stairs. Rias, Issei called, following him. Upper floors. Rias was sitting with her head between her knees at the door of the room she shared with Issei, when said brunette appeared. Again, Issei said sympathetically, receiving a pout in response from the redeed. Ani-sama is a fool, idiot and immature, Rias grumbled annoyed. Let's go in, Issei said, stretching out his hand towards Rias, who smiled and took it, getting up from her, they both opened the door and entered the room. Once inside the room, they both went to the bed and Issei sat on it and Rias on her lap hugging him by the neck. The two looked at each other for a few moments and then gave each other a soft and affectionate kiss. Sorry for behaving like that, but Ani-sama lives embarrassing me, said Rias when she broke away from the kiss. Don't apologize, you know that I love everything about you, you are perfect in my eyes, you and the girls are what I love most in this world, the brunette responded, moving Rias with his words. Ice, said Rias kissing the brunette again. Suddenly the door to the room opened. It's not fair, but you, he said, pouting, causing Issei and Rias to separate to look at the door. Rias-sama takes advantage of any moment, Ravel said annoyed. As expected of Rias-sama, said Lefei. If you for Rias laughed amused. What are you doing here? Issei asked, observing the trinity of blondes. Sama embarrasses us, the three responded as one, making Issei giggle, who motioned for them to approach him and Rias. The first to arrive was Asia, who climbed onto the bed and hugged Issei from behind. He gave her a soft kiss, which the ex-nun gladly reciprocated. Then it was Ravel, who sat on the right side, and in the end she sat on the left side, both receiving the same treatment as the redite and blonde. I see that you are happy, Ice-kun. Surzicha's voice was heard entering the room. Nai-sama, said Rias standing in front of her brother. It seems that Gaspar's time has come, Issei thought. Rias, I have come to tell you that the time has come for you to release your other bishop, said Surzichas. Free my other bishop? Rias asked, feigning ignorance. Another bishop? They asked Asia and she was confused. I didn't know that Rias-sama had another servant, said Ravel. Yes, in fact he was locked up because he was considered too dangerous for me, the redite explained. Yes, but seeing your great evolution in the fight with Phoenix and Kakabiel, it seems like the right time for it to come to light, Surzichas responded. Ironic if you ask me, the brunette thought, amused. Well, if Ani-sama wants, not if Surzicha's Lucifer-sama dictates so it will be done, Rias responded respectfully. Very good, said the red-haired Mayu, leaving the room. Nai-sama, can you tell Akeno to come please? The redite asked kindly to her brother, who nodded. A few moments passed and Akeno entered the room. Did something happen, Rias? The black-haired girl asked her friend. Yes, Ani-sama authorized us to release Gaspar, please inform Kiba and the others about this, Rias ordered. Okay, let's go right away. Akeno asked. The Gremory just nodded, then the black-haired woman left the room to report what happened. S2 Chapter 44. The Vampiric Bishop. Old building, Kuo Academy. All the members of the Occult Research Club were in the old Kuo Academy building, where they met for their activities. They were currently on the first floor behind a door which was very well sealed and guarded with magic circles. And insulation tapes, chains, padlocks, among other things. So here is your other bishop? Lefei asked with interest. The redite just nodded. I can feel an extremely evil and dark aura coming from there, Irina said, feeling a chill. You felt it too, Irina, her presence is petrifying, Zenobia said seriously. If that's how you feel about her presence, I think you'll be in for a big surprise when you see it, said Akeno, smiling amusedly. Well, the time has come, said Rias, taking a step forward and then removing the restrictions from the door. After doing so, Rias opened it so everyone could see what the room was like inside. They were surprised to see a coffin in it. They entered the room and began to look around. Gaspar, it's me, Rias said the redite once she entered the room. What are you doing here? Leave me alone, said a voice that seemed feminine. Upon hearing the voice, everyone looked away towards a cardboard box that was in the room. Gaspar-kun, it's time for you to go back outside, Akeno said softly. No, you know I don't like the outside, it scares me, get out of here, the vampire responded, upset. Please Gasper-kun, come out of your box, we want to introduce you to the new pieces of Butchu and our companions, Kiba said calmly. New parts? Asked the vampire, taking his head out of his box and looking around him, seeing so many people he fearfully got into his box again, seeing Gasper's appearance surprised those who didn't know him. Why are there so many people here? You know I don't like being with a lot of people, the silver-haired man asked his classmates, deciding to speak. Issei took a step forward. Gasper, I'm Haidu Issei, Ria's pawn, you and I, we already know each other, we've played online several times, said the brunette in a friendly way. Are you that boy? Asked the surprised vampire. Yes I am Issei responded affirmatively. The reason why there are so many people here is because I am the current Sekirute, and as such I can have my own servants as well, Issei explained calmly. I understand Gasper responded. Please, Gasper, get out of your box and let yourself be seen, Rias asked his bishop. It's okay, Gasper said, and then left the box, surprising some of the girls. She's very pretty, said Irina, looking at the vampire. It's interesting, Naya Kuroka said smiling, analyzing Gasper, realizing what he is in a way that is not surprising, since it is Kuroka we are talking about. I hope you don't do anything perverted to him, Ice-kun, Rainer said, looking at Issei seriously. Knowing Isama he will surely do it, said Ravel in the same way. Ahahaha, Issei laughed, having fun with the situation. What are you laughing at? Both girls asked, annoyed. If you foo, girls, Gasper is a man, Akeno said amused, those words disconcerted more than one. Was the only thing the girls could say in a state of shock. It seems like he likes to cross-dress, Naya, said Kuroka, amused. So you realized, Nisama, Kaneko said, looking at her sister. The black-haired woman just nodded. Nisama? Gasper asked surprised. It's not the one, but Gasper shrank from the look that both Nekomata sisters gave him. It's what you think, Gakun, Kaneko said to her friend. But I've already forgiven her, said the white-haired girl. Well, let me introduce him properly, said Rias in a serene manner. This is Gasper Vladi, he is a half-vampire who reincarnated as a demon, and as you may have noticed, he is quite shy, said Rias, introducing the bishop. Half-vampire, Kiara said surprised. That would explain the dark presence, said Zenobia. As you know, Gasper, Issei is my pawn, but there are still 2 new companions missing, said Rias, looking at Asia and Zenobia, who, upon noticing the gaze of his mistress, took a step forward. Nice to meet you, Gasper-kun, my name is Asia Argento, I am Butchu's other bishop. The ex-nun introduced herself. I am Zenobia Quarta, I am the knight of Rias Butchu, I hope we get along well. The exorcist introduced herself, looking at the vampire. The others are my servants, Issei said, please introduce yourselves. I am Kuroka, queen, said the black-haired Nekomata. I am Kiara Ligos, I am her tower, said the demon. I am Lafay Pendragon, I am Isama's bishop. The magician introduced herself with a smile. Ravel Phoenix, bishop and manager of Isama, said the blonde phoenix proudly. I am Marina Shidu, I'm her knight, I hope we get along well. The angel introduced herself happily. I'm Rainer, her pawn. The fallen woman introduced herself. Currently not all my servants are present, but I will introduce them later, said Issei, informing the vampire. Well, Gasper, it's time to go. Tomorrow you'll start going to the academy with Kaneko, said the Redeed, approaching Gasper, who was afraid. No, but you know I don't like people, leave me here, the vampire responded, stepping back. Gasper, said Rias, approaching him. No, said the silver-haired man when his eyes began to shine, freezing Kiba in place. This surprised the girls who did not know about his ability, but the most surprised was Gasper when he saw that no one was affected. But what? Gasper said in shock. If you foo, Gasper-kun, you won't be able to stop time for us, you don't have enough power, Akeno said, laughing. To stop time? I asked, confused. Gasper has a sacred gear that gives him that ability, Forbidden Baylor View, Rias explained, answering Asia's question. Seeing that it was useless, Gasper stopped his ability, so Kiba returned to normal. Gasper, don't you want to be brave? Issei asked, capturing everyone's attention and more than Gasper. Yes, the vampire responded. Do you want to be a man? Issei asked again. Yes, the silver-haired man responded more forcefully. A man's duty is to protect women, in this case our companion, said Issei. Do you want to be strong, Gasper? The brunette asked, trying to motivate the vampire. Yes, Gasper shouted, determination emerging in his eyes. Do you want to overcome your fears and insecurities? I asked again. Yes, Gasper shouted even louder. Then I will train you, Issei said. A malicious smile began to appear on his face. I will turn you into a man, Issei finished. His smile split his face, which gave Gasper a strong shiver down his back. That smile transmitted pure evil, even a little uncomfortable to the girls. Well, Gasper, you will live with Kiba, said Rias, to which both boys nodded. Next day, Kuo Academy courtyard. What type of training is this? Asked Gasper, terrified as he escaped from the slashes of Durandal, Ascalon and Aperos, which were being wielded by Zenobia, Irina and Issei. Well, Kuroka shoots him with her. Will the Wispa, the vampire shouted in terror, barely escaping. a cut from Zenobia. This training will help you with resistance, evasion and strengthen your mind. You have to leave your fears behind, defend yourself and face us, Issei said, giving a thrust, which Gasper barely evaded. What Issei said made sense, but for Gasper, it was more easy said than done. He dodged another Ascalon slash, but was hit by an attack from Kuroka, making him scream in pain. Come on Gasper. Defend yourself and face us. Don't you want to be a man? Don't you want to protect your companions? The brunette asked, looking at Gasper. Yes, said Gasper, his eyes were filled with determination. He dodged another attack from Kuroka and saw how Zenobia approached with her sword to attack him. He focused his sight on her and activated his sacred gear, giving his all. He managed to stop Zenobia for a moment, enough time to dodge Durandal and hit the blue-haired girl in the stomach, making her retreat. Gasper's action surprised the four of them. Issei smiled when he saw the vampire. Very good Gasper, that's how it goes, said the brunette, proud of his companion. Gasper nodded, determined. Suddenly the brunette turned his head toward the surrounding trees and narrowed his eyes. What do you want, Azazel? Issei asked seemingly out of nowhere. Upon hearing the name, the girls and the vampire stopped and looked at where the brunette was looking. As perceptive as always, Issei said, the aforementioned appearing among the trees. Regarding your question, I am only interested in the bearer of Forbidden Baylor View. I would like to investigate him, Azazel responded, looking at Issei intently, while frowning. It's the least what I deserve after your damn bastard burned my paperwork and delayed my work, he said angrily. The brunette smiled mockingly, making the fallen man angrier. Did you burn his paperwork? Irina asked curiously. Yes, the brunette responded. This caused giggles in the girls, causing the fallen man's fury. Continue with the training, said the honey-eyed, starting to walk towards Azazel. The girls and transvestite nodded and started again. It is very good for me that you are here, Azazel said, Issei smiling. I need to talk a couple of things with you, said the brunette again, being already in front of Grigory's governor. Oh, and what would that be? I ask with interest. Believe me, you will be interested, but I would like to talk about it somewhere else, do you think? Issei said to the cadre, who nodded fine, but first I have to solve a conflict with 3 girls from my harem. Do you think if you go ahead, I will catch up with you in a moment, said the brunette seriously. Azazel smiled mischievously and nodded. Before leave girls, is Seraph full home? The brunette asked, returning his attention to the training. Upon listening to his lover, the 3 girls nodded. Good, said Issei, 2 magic circles appearing, of which 2 clones appeared. I will leave you a clone as a supervisor. I will see you at home later. Upon hearing Issei, the girls nodded again. The brunette looked at one of the clones. They did not need words. They both opened a dimensional crack each and disappeared. Gregory Enemu was in his office doing paperwork for Azazel when a dimensional crack opened in the room. I didn't need to be a fortune teller to know who he was. When the person appeared through the crack, the cadre smiled. I, said the black-haired girl affectionately. Hello Nemu-chan, said the brunette smiling, approaching the fallen girl, who got up from her chair and let Issei sit in it and then sat on his lap and wrapped her arms around his neck, kissing him. It was a kiss full of affection and affection. What brings you here today? Penemu asked, caressing Issei's cheek. He came to look for you to go home, the brunette replied, leaving the black-haired girl curious. Your house? The brunette just nodded. For what? Asked the fallen. The time has come to smooth things over with certain girls, Issei responded, getting up from the chair. When they were both standing, Issei grabbed Penemu's hand and opened another crack, passing through this one. Heaven 6 Heaven. Gabriel was currently in his room in the 6th heaven. He was helping his brother with the paperwork until a while ago and is now resting peacefully in his bed. That tranquility was interrupted when a dimensional rift opened in the middle of the room. Rising up from the bed, he saw with a smile the person who came out of said crack. Hello Ice-kun, said the blonde with a sweet smile. Hello my queen, Issei responded, approaching Seraphim's bed. Sitting on it, the blonde, upon seeing him, approached him and they looked into each other's eyes for a few moments and then shortened the distance and gave each other a deep kiss. Issei hugged his hands, his hips, pulling her closer to him possessively, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, deepening the kiss even further, their legs wrapped around each other carefully. What brings you to heaven, my life? The blonde asked with an affectionate tone, not wanting to separate herself from the brunette's mouth. I came to look for you to go home, Issei responded, licking the seraph's lips with his tongue. And so? Gabriel asked as he put her tongue into Issei's mouth, exploring it, making the kiss more passionate. I want Seraphol, Penemu and you to talk and get along, the brunette responded as he separated to breathe. You know I don't have any problem with them, the blonde responded, kissing Issei again, who gladly reciprocated. I know, my love, Issei said, separating from the kiss to look at the blonde affectionately in the eyes. You are not capable of having problems with anyone. You are pure and without a trace of negativity in you, the brunette spoke. You are the closest thing to the perfection that I know. You are my light, said Issei, kissing the seraphim again, transmitting all the love and feelings towards her with that kiss, which Gabriel reciprocated with a lot of love. However, apparently they have a unilateral rivalry with you or some quarrel past, the brunette explained when they separated. It's okay, my life, if it's calming for you that I talk to them, I'll I'll do it, Gabriel said with an affectionate tone, while he caressed Issei's cheek. Thank you, the brunette responded, giving him another short kiss. After that, Issei got up from the bed and held out his hand for Gabriel to grab it, who happily did so and got out of the bed. Then Issei opened a crack and they passed through it. Human World Haidu residence. In the living room of the house, Tiamat and Serafal were watching television calmly, relaxing, when two dimensional cracks opened, surprising both women a little. Two Issei emerged from the dimensional cracks, along with Gabriel and Penemu. What are the two of them doing here, Ice-chan? Serafal asked with a frown. They come because I want you to talk, the brunette responded, while the clone that came with Gabriel disappeared and he stood in the middle of the two transcendental beauties, hugging them by the waist. Talk? The Mayu asked, raising an eyebrow. If the three of you are going to be part of my harem, I want you to solve your problems and be friends, Issei said seriously. But Ice-kun. But nothing. Penemu was interrupted by Issei's words and serious look, who then looked toward Serafal. I now have a meeting with Azazel, for when he returns I want you to be friends or at least be able to live together. Tiamat will watch over you, and if necessary, he will help them, Issei said seriously. Upon hearing him, the three girls looked away towards the dragon. Of course, why not, the light-haired girl responded, shrugging her shoulders. Don't worry, Ice, everything will be fine, said Gabriel, smiling. I hope so, Issei responded without further ado. I'll leave, the brunette finished saying, leaving the house towards where they would meet with the cadre, leaving the four women in the living room. S2 Chapter 45. Domain Moon. Kuo City Black Dog Bar. This was a bar created by Azazel in one of the many buildings found in the city of Kuo, which is being run by one of the most reliable teams that Grigori has, the Slash Dog team, led by Tobio Ikus, who was behind of the bar, serving the happy owner of the place, who was waiting for Issei Haidu for his meeting. Tobio's friends and the rest of his team were helping him. These being Natsume Minagawa, Kaki Samijima and Sei Toho, in addition to Lavinia Rinai, who was currently singing. And to think that the place he chose was this. Azazel heard a voice, so he turned around and saw Issei approaching, while he smiled. Is my bar wrong? The cadre asked amused, while he watched as Issei sat on one of the stools at the bar. Not at all, there is no better place, Issei responded. At that, the brunette looked at him through the four workers of the place. How have you been, man? Issei asked, smiling, looking at Tobio. I've been fine, Issei, the dark brown boy responded, shaking the brunette's hand. This interested Azazel a little. Do you know each other? The Pellibicular asked with intrigue. Issei is a recurring customer here, Natsume responded, approaching. Hello, I said the brunette. Issei looked at her and smiled at her, and then gave himself a friendly hug. Too recurring, I would say, said Sei, who also gave the brunette a hug, which he reciprocated. Who wouldn't want to come and listen to such a beautiful voice, Issei responded, looking towards the stage where Lavinia was singing. Lavinia's voice always brings me peace, Issei said with a smile. Stop acting stupid, said a male voice. How have you been, Issei, my man? The boy asked with a friendly voice. I've been fine, Kaki, Issei responded, and then they both bumped fists. At that point, he realized that something was tugging at his pants. Looking down, he saw someone familiar. How are you, Jin? Asked the chestnut, petting the Canis Lycaean dog, who moved his tail happily. Do you want the same thing as always? Tobio asked his friend. Apple distillate right away, Natsume said amusingly. You do know Tsume-chan, Issei responded, smiling. What an interesting relationship has been generated here, said Azazel, watching the interaction of Tobio's team with the current Sekiryuite. And I didn't know that you drank, Issei, said the cadre with interest. I usually do it to relieve stress, Issei responded to the fallen man. I understand, said Grigori's governor, watching as Natsume handed his request to the honey-eyed man. A female voice was heard when a golden blur rushed towards Issei, and he received it happily. It was Lavinia, who had already finished singing, and when she saw Issei, she went directly to hug him. I missed you, Icon, said the blonde, burying her head in Issei's chest. You too, my princess, Issei responded, strengthening the hug with the magician. Damn, Issei, you even stole Tobio's women. Now I understand why you come so often, Azazel said amused. That comment threw Tobio off, causing him to drop the glass he was drying, and it broke and made Kaki laugh mockingly. But he regretted it when a murderous instinct began to be felt in the area. The cadre looked towards Natsume, who was emanating said instinct with nerves. The girl just threw a jug made of wood at him, hitting him in the head, causing a moan from the Pellibicular. We don't belong to anyone, said the brunette, looking away. Upon seeing the scene, Issei lifted Lavinia, sitting her on his lap, and turned towards Azazel to look at him with a mocking smile, while the blonde snuggled even closer into his chest. What can I say, I'm great, Issei said smugly, but quickly gave a little scream, because Sei was pinching his cheek. Ice, that's no better than what Azazel said, the black-haired girl said disapprovingly. The honey-eyed boy only nodded, so the girl let him go, and then looked at the fallen man again and smiled again, stroking Lavinia's hair. You know what do they say, you always have to keep one secret? Said Issei while taking a drink of his drink. Icon, Lavinia said with a cold voice, paralyzing Issei on the spot. He looked down and saw Lavinia's eyes, which were cold as ice. Yes, Lavi-chan, Issei said nervously. Don't say those things, the blonde responded. The brunette nodded as if his life depended on it. It's okay, the magician said again, returning to her usual attitude, giving Issei a kiss on the cheek. Besides, Rias-san knows you're coming. Dear, he has even come with you a couple of times, she said again as she settled herself on Issei's lap in a way that she could see Azazel, wrapping her arms around his neck. Upon hearing her companions nodded in agreement. Well, can we go to the topic for which you asked me to meet? Asked the cadre, trying to cut the situation off. Damn bastard, not only is it enough for you to take away my Gabriel, now you're going after other people's women, who's next office? Thought the cadre with envy and admiration, a quite particular mix of emotions. It's true, Issei said, getting a little serious. I needed you to do me a favor, the brunette asked. Oh, and what would it be? Asked the black-haired man, staring at the honey-eyed. It's about my training room, Issei responded to the fallen angel's question. I want you to implement a customization system in it, the brunette explained. Customization? Kauki asked confused, while Azazel raised an eyebrow in interest. Shark, what Icon wants is for the environment of the place to change, for the terrain to be modified, Lavinia responded. Issei nodded in affirmation, while she gave the blonde a kiss on the cheek, giving her a radiant smile. So what you want is for the training place to be expanded so you can intensify your training and fights, said the cadre analytically. The brunette just nodded again. Okay, I will have it ready for you in a few weeks, the fallen man responded, shrugging shoulders. It would be nice to have a fight when I'm ready, Tobio said, looking at Issei with a smile. I think so, Issei said, smiling wildly. And there is one of the ways to convince Issei for something, Issei said with a sigh. What are the others? Azazel asked, interested. Women, Natsume responded as if nothing had happened. I should have guessed, Azazel said with a drop of sweat. The question is, what do you want from Icon? Lavinia intervened, looking at Tobio intently, while she clung to him more closely to her body. I wouldn't do that, who do you think I am? The black-haired man asked indignantly. Oh no, I remember that you used the excuse of coming to visit Lavinia here to turn Issei into a recurring client. Since you already used that method, now you are going for the other one, said Kauki, laughing amused, rejoicing at the expression made by his friend. I never did that, idiot friends, Tobio murmured in depression at the words of his friend, making those present laugh. Azazel, I want you to implement a game on me, said Issei, taking everyone out of the laughing atmosphere, returning to business. Issei's statement surprised the rest a little. A game? Natsume asked, looking at Issei. Why do you want a game about you, Icon? Lavinia asked, looking into the brunette's eyes with interest. Well, I want my story to be told in some way, and what better way than a game, Issei responded, smiling. I would play it, Kauki said, with Tobio nodding in agreement. Of course you would say that, Issei said, rolling her eyes. I must admit that it would be interesting to develop it, Azazel said with interest. Yes, Azazel, I would like it to have a story mode, with an open world, main and secondary missions, character interaction, to have a PvP and tournament mode and unlockable characters, said the brunette, looking seriously at the fallen man. Okay, Issei, it will be done under your specifications, replied the governor of the fallen angels. Please make it as realistic as possible and refrain from adding any of your crazy things, Issei asked. Well, the main group will be yours, of course. Tell me, do you want Issei's character and your girls to be able to have Hex? Azazel asked, amused. That question disconcerted those present, making the girls blush furiously. We are talking about a game that tells my life, not an Azazel marriage, Issei responded with annoyance. But that's part of your life, the cadre responded shrewdly. Good point, Issei said, unable to help but agree with his teacher, but we are talking about a game that children will play, Issei said again, looking at Azazel. He just nodded in understanding. Thank goodness that didn't come out, said Lavinia, breathing a sigh of relief. Are you worried about something, Lavinia? Natsume asked, smiling mischievously. No, because there would be something that would do it, the magician quickly responded with a slight blush on her face. Millimeters, I think so, Issei contributed in the same way as her brunette friend. The blonde magician only looked down embarrassed, however she felt how Issei grabbed her chin, causing her to look him in the eyes. His gaze comforted her. Calm down, Lavi-chan, said the brunette, giving him a smile, and then kissed the blonde on the forehead, who smiled happily and snuggled into Issei's chest. They both hugged, hugging their bodies even more. Okay, Azazel, now let's go. To talk about the topic that will interest you the most, said Issei, looking seriously at the cadre. Oh, and that's it? Asked the interested Pellibicular. You see, I have made a pact with another girl, who is a classmate of mine. She has become my new knight, the brunette began to speak. You have a new pretty girl in your ranks, damn, Issei, Kauki said with frustration and envy in his voice, but he was quickly petrified by the icy look he received from the blonde magician. Shark, Lavinia called in an icy tone, which gave the men present chills. Yes, Lavinia, Kauki responded, sweating profusely. Shut up, the blonde said again with a tone that would freeze hell itself. Hi, the boy responded again, trembling with fear. Upon hearing this, the blonde magician returned to her usual personality, smiling kindly at the boy. "Am bipolar," Kauki muttered under his breath. "Did you say something?" Lavinia asked, narrowing her eyes. "I didn't say anything, I didn't say anything," Kauki responded, moving his arms frantically, causing the others to laugh. "Well, what is it about your servant that should interest me?" Azazel asked, returning seriousness to the place. "The sacred gear awakened," Issei responded seriously. "The sacred gear?" asked Tobio, who was interested when he heard what the brunette said. "Yes, but it is a strange sacred gear, when we saw it left us all confused, since we had never seen anything like it," Issei explained seriously. "What was that sacred gear like?" Azazel asked with a serious tone, already common in this conversation. "It is a bow with its quiver and some hunting knives. What seems strange to us is that they gave off a divided aura that cannot be identified," the brunette responded. His words caused the Slash Dog team to raise an eyebrow in confusion and interest. "What did you say?" said the cadre in complete shock, standing up from his place and going in front of Issei, grabbing him by his shoulders. "Aya," shouted Lavinia, who was about to fall from Issei's lap due to Azazel's sudden movement, but the brunette held her firmly, preventing the magician from falling. He wrapped his arms around her neck. Everyone was surprised by the outburst of the fallen. "Hey Azazel, sit down and calm down," Issei said with annoyance in his voice. "Yes, I'm sorry," said the governor of the fallen angels, compassing himself. "Do you know that sacred gear?" asked Tobio. "If I do it and it is normal that they do not know it, that sacred gear is considered a myth or a legend," the fallen angel responded seriously. "What do you mean?" Lavinia asked the cadre. "That sacred gear, very few of us knew of its existence, currently leaving only Michael and I. That sacred gear is known as the only one that was not created by Father," Azazel responded seriously. That statement surprised those present. "What are you talking about?" Tobio asked with great seriousness. "The name of the sacred gear is Domain Moon, and it is a weapon created by the Greek goddess of the moon and hunting Artemis. I suppose the divine aura of the sacred gear is hers," Azazel answered seriously. "Explain yourself," Issei said seriously. "It is said that millennia ago when the goddess Artemis was recruiting her hunters, she created that team based on some materials in her power, which would be destined for whoever would be her lieutenant and who would command the rest of the hunters. Every time of its carriers died, it would pass to the hunter that would take its place. Over time the equipment was lost and a few hundred years ago it was found by my father. He realized that the equipment had developed its own consciousness. He immediately knew who it was. The creator of said equipment and went before the goddess Artemis, agreed for the equipment to become a sacred gear, and that was how it was established in the sacred gear system that father created," Azazel explained seriously, before the words of the fallen everyone. They were surprised processing what he said. "What kind of skills do you have?" Issei asked seriously, before the brunette Azazel's question he sighed. "I don't know, I suppose it depends on the will of each carrier. As I said before, Domain Moon developed its own consciousness and is very strict in choosing its users, being that in all these years only 2 were known and both in Europe. It is said that the bearers of that sacred gear were and will all be women, and once you activate it, you will be under the protection of the goddess herself, and its user will become the representative of Artemis in the human world," Azazel explained, with great seriousness to the boys present. "I understand," Issei said thoughtfully. "Is that sacred gear a Longinus?" Lavinia asked, looking at the fallen man with interest. "I don't know, and that makes me desperate. This is the first time it appears in this part of the world. Please let me investigate it," Issei Azazel asked pleadingly, making the brunette sigh. "It's okay," Issei responded. That made the cadre clench his fists in victory. "I guess it was to be expected from someone crazy about sacred gears," Tobio said, amused, causing the others to laugh. From one moment to the next, Azazel directed an amused smile towards Issei, missing the others. "Don't you think you have bad luck, Issei?" asked the cadre, smiling like a madman. "What are you talking about?" Issei asked with doubt. "All the carriers of Domain Moon followed the lifestyle of their patron goddess," Azazel responded, causing Issei to raise an eyebrow. "They remained virgins all their lives," Azazel said, laughing like crazy. At those words the honey-eyed man's body tensed, being that Lavinia began to caress his hair to relax him. "I think I can reach an agreement with her," Issei responded confidently. "Reach an agreement with the goddess who hates men? You are someone who owns a harem." "I find it difficult," said Azazel, laughing with amusement. "Difficult but not impossible," the brunette answered. "I still have my pretty Gabriel. If it doesn't work," Issei said, looking with a superior smile at the fallen man, who froze when he heard the brunette's words. "She is so loving and affectionate. In addition to being very possessive when we sleep together," said the brunette, his smile widening, while the fallen angel looked at Issei with bloodshot eyes, clenching his fists tightly, furious, envious and jealous. Azazel began to surround himself with his aura. "You damned bastard, how did you dare to take my Gabriel away from me?" Azazel shouted angrily at Issei, standing up from his stool. "Oh no, I can as angry," Lavinia thought with concern, noticing how her grip tightened around her and her bangs covered her eyes. "You Gabriel," Issei murmured with anger in his voice, but he was heard by those around him. "How dare you put that possessive word on her," Issei shouted, looking at Azazel with green eyes. As his aura came to light, the fallen he stepped back in surprise at Issei's outburst, feeling a shiver run through him. The others also moved away from him a little, with Lavinia being the only one left close to him, since she was not affected. "Don't worry, Azazel will not say something like that again," said the blonde magician, caressing the brunette's cheeks, who looked at Azazel with murderous intent. The fallen man only nodded many times to Lavinia's words, however Issei did not listen. "Icon," said the worried blonde and then kissed Issei on the lips, transmitting love, affection, tranquility and peace. A few moments passed for Issei's aura to disappear, and his eyes returned to normal. Closing them, he hugged the girl more tightly. Blonde, clinging her closer to him, deepening the kiss. Upon seeing that everyone sighed in relief and Azazel returned to his place, a few seconds passed, and they separated. "Are you better, Icon?" Lavinia asked, caressing the brunette's cheek, giving him a sweet smile. "Yes, thank you, Lavi-chan," Issei responded with affection in his voice. "You're welcome," the magician replied, smiling, snuggling into Issei's chest. "Anyway, is there anything else I need to know about that sacred gear?" asked the calmer brown man, staring at the fallen man. "Not at the moment," the cadre responded with a sigh. "By the way, the vitra pieces are ready," Azazel informed. The brunette nodded. "Tomorrow I will go to train with Tannen. I will stop by Grigori with Saji." Before that, the brunette responded to the governor of the fallen angels. He only nodded. "Is there anything else you want to talk about?" Azazel asked calmly. "Don't talk about everything you wanted," Issei responded, shaking his head. "Well then I'll leave," Azazel said, standing up. "See you guys," said the fallen man, leaving the place. "I think I'll go too," Issei said with a sigh. "Already?" Lavinia asked, pouting, while she looked at him. "Yes," Issei responded, giving the blonde a sweet kiss. Not being able to stand her gesture. "I needed you to do me a favor," Lavinia, Issei asked when they separated from the kiss. "Tell me," Kun answered the blonde magician. "He needed you to teach magic to some girls," said the brunette. "Who is it?" the blonde asked with interest. "One is the bearer of the sacred gear and the other is her friend, who is an excellent kendo practitioner and has high magical reserves," Issei responded. "It's okay, Icon," the blonde responded with a smile. "What do you think if you go home for breakfast tomorrow and I'll introduce them to you? I'll invite them too," said Issei, causing Lavinia's smile to widen. "I would love to," she responded excitedly. "Well, without further ado, I'll leave," Issei said, and then gave the blonde a kiss, which conveyed several emotions. They extended it as long as they could until they separated. After that, the brunette said goodbye to the others and left the bar. With Issei was walking to her house after the meeting she had with Azazel. He decided to talk to her partner to seek her opinion. "What do you think, Drake?" Issei asked her dragon companion. "Honestly, I'm impressed with that sacred gear," companion responded the Welsh dragon to its wearer. "Have you never heard of something like this?" asked the chestnut with curiosity. "No, partner, in our world there is no such thing. It must be another of the many changes that our trip caused," Drake responded with seriousness in his voice. "I see," Issei said, understanding his partner's words. "For the moment it will be better that we leave things as they are and see how the girl progresses," Drake advised his partner. Issei only nodded in acceptance to his tenant's words. "Changing the subject, because you ask Azazel to develop a game about you?" asked a dragon with great interest. "Because I need an income that replaces that of the dragon Oppai, and it seemed like the best option to me," the brunette responded to his companion. "You know that the games Azazel develops are pure and simple garbage, right?" Drake asked between serious and funny. "I know, mate, I know," Issei responded, giving a sigh of resignation. He would give Azazel a measure of trust, who knows, maybe it surprises him. "I hope you don't regret it, mate," said the dragon again. After the talk they both cut off communication and Issei headed home. S2 Chapter 46. Celine, Vritra and Tannen. Haidu residence. Issei entered the Haidu residence and was met with the view he wanted. "Oh thank Satan," thought Issei, since in the armchairs in the room were Gabriel, Penemu, Seraphol and Tiamat. The four of them were talking animatedly, as if they were good friends. Upon seeing this, Issei smiled fondly. "To the four women, I see that they are finally getting along," the brunette said, approaching. Upon hearing what Issei said, the four turned their gaze towards him. "I can say that that pigeon is not so bad," Ice-chan, Seraphol said, looking away from the two angels. "I must say that they are less annoying than I thought." Penemu followed him seriously. "I told you that everything would turn out well, Ice-kun," said Gabriel, smiling sweetly at the brunette. He only smiled back at Seraph and then looked at the dragon to see if she had anything to add, who just sighed before speaking. "Well, at first it was not easy for them to talk like civilized people, and I had to intervene so that Penemu and Seraphol did not fight, but as time went by the dialogue began and they began to get along better." Tiamat informed her partner, who nodded. "I understand," the chestnut responded to the dragon's words. "Why do you leave Gabriel as the good one?" the pigtailed Mayu complained, with Penemu supporting her. Because she was the only one who wanted to take this for peace and dialogue, Tiamat responded indifferently. Issei smiled, approaching the chair where Tiamat, Seraphol and Penemu were sitting to give a soft and affectionate kiss to the black-haired girl with pigtails, and then do the same with the cadre and the blue-haired girl, who were at her sides. After that she lifted Seraphol from her place, causing her to let out a cute scream. He took her place, sitting her on his right leg, making a sign for Gabriel. Approached, the blonde got up from her chair and did so, sitting on the brunette's left leg, and just like with the other three, she gave Seraphim a warm kiss. After that, the four women snuggled up to Issei, being that the demon and angel did it on his chest and the dragon and fallen angel on his shoulders, spending some very comfortable moments for the five of them. And the rest of the girls? Issei asked curiously. Here we are, Ice, answered a voice. The five looked at the voice and saw Rias coming from the lower floors. Behind her came Akeno, Asia, Kaneko, Kuroka, Irina, Zenobia and Rainer respectively, who approached the chestnut to give this one a kiss. I see that they are very affectionate, Rainer said, smiling amused. Ara Ice-kun is so attentive, Akeno said with her typical smile. Seraphol-sama, Gabriel-sama, I-senpai's lap, my territory. Kaneko murmured words that were incomprehensible to the others, while he narrowed his eyes. And Ravel, Lefei and Kiara? The brunette asked his girls, who came out of their thoughts to look at him. They stayed downstairs training a little, Naya, Kuroka responded calmly. How was your meeting with Azazel Ice-kun? Irina asked with intrigue that caught the attention of the others. Did you have a meeting with Azazel Ice? Rias asked interested. Yes, we talked about various topics, but I'll tell you at dinner, Issei responded nonchalantly. The girls just nodded with a shrug of their shoulders. What do you think of Gasper? Issei asked, looking at the three girls who were in charge of the vampires' training. He has potential, you just have to take away his fears, Zenobia responded, with the other two agreeing. Issei only nodded at what was said. Girls, it's time to make dinner, said Miki, appearing at the scene with several bags. Let me help you, Okasama said Seraphol and Asia, going to help the brunette with the shopping, taking them to the kitchen. Will you stay, Penemu-san? The Redede asked the cadre, who nodded. Well, let's go to the kitchen, Akeno said Rias again, going to the kitchen, being followed by his queen, leaving the rest in the living room. Minutes later, Ravel, Lefei and Kiara had finished their training some time before, had bathed and gone down to eat with the others, which is where we are currently. It's very delicious, Penemu said, praising the girls' and mother-in-law's food. I didn't know you could do anything more than dress up and act ridiculous, Seraphol cadre said, looking at the Mayu in a mocking manner. When the black-haired girl with pigtails heard her, she had an eye twitch due to irritation. HMP, at least I don't have to sign other people's papers, the Mayu returned, looking at Penemu in a defiant way, who had a vein appear on her forehead, indicating that she was upset by the demon's comment. Both looked at each other menacingly. For a few moments, leaving the atmosphere very tense. Girls, don't start a scene right now, get along, Gabriel intervened to calm things down. Those mentioned only looked away. It seems that small disputes between the Mai-sama will not be able to be avoided, Lefei said, watching the interaction of the three leaders. That they can live together with, Issei responded with a sigh. I know that they will be able to get along well, he said, looking at the three mentioned with a smile. And how is your training going, Kiara? The chestnut asked, paying attention to the Oligos. Very good, Isama. Lefei has been helping me with magic, and today Ravel helped me with my demonic power, the red-eyed girl responded with a smile. I must say that I was surprised by the power and capacity of his Isama, said Ravel to the brunette, who nodded satisfied with what was said. I hope you become strong, Kia-chan, Issei said, smiling at the orange-haired girl. On the other hand, Ice, what did you talk to Azazel about? Rias asked with interest. Well, I asked him to modify the training room for better use, the honey-eyed man responded to his fiancée. Improve it? Zenobia asked with doubt in her voice. You will see it soon, Issei responded, leaving the doubt in the air. I also told him so that we could start a new project, the brunette continued speaking. A project? Rainer asked with interest. What kind of Ice-kun project? Irina asked, looking at the wearer of the boosted gear. One that will bring me additional income, Irina, Issei responded enigmatically, pouting at Michael's ace. Whatever you entrusted to that lazy man, you shouldn't have done it. Nothing he does turns out well, said Penemu, reproaching her leader. I know, Issei said with a sigh, but I will give him a vote of confidence, the honey-eyed man continued speaking. Did you ask him about your new Night Naya's sacred gear? Kuroka asked, drawing the attention of the others. It's Murayama ni-sama, Kaneko said expressionlessly. Kuroneko just shrugged her shoulders indifferently. Murayama? Gabriel asked with confusion. She is a classmate from our class, Gabriel-sama. Seraphine responded like this. If we talk about that, Issei responded to Kuroka's question. And what did Ice-kun tell you? Akeno asked seriously. It is normal that we do not know it, since that sacred gear was believed to be a myth or a legend, the brunette replied. A myth? Asked Lefei with interest. What do you mean, Isama? Ravel asked, looking at Issei with great attention. Well, currently only two beings were the ones who knew about the sacred gear, the brunette answered. What sacred gear is Ice? Rias asked impatiently. Her name is Domain Moon, Issei responded seriously. Domain Moon? Penemu asked with confusion in her voice. Where have I heard that name before? Gabriel wondered thoughtfully. Do you know about that sacred gear, Gabriel-sama? Irina asked her superior. I don't remember that father has created a sacred gear with that name, Gabriel responded, shaking his head. That's normal, Gabriel-chan, Issei said, looking at the seraph with a smile. What do you mean, Ice-kun? The blonde asked, confused. I don't think Elohim created that sacred gear, the brunette responded. This answer surprised everyone. A sacred gear that was not created by God, said Zenobia in disbelief. Before you said that only two beings knew about the sacred gear, Tiamat intervened to ask a question he had a while ago. Issei nodded to the dragon. Who were they? The light-haired girl asked. Azazel and Michael, the honey-eyed man answered calmly. Ani, Sam, Michael Sama, both angels said, opening their eyes a little. But if God was not the creator of that sacred gear, who was Ice-chan? Seraphil asked, compassing herself like the others. The Greek goddess of the moon and hunting, Artemis, Issei responded, surprising everyone again. Artemis, said Lefay with a surprised tone. Isn't that the goddess who hates men? Zenobia asked. The girls nodded to the brunette's question. Yes, in fact the divine aura that came from the bow, quiver of arrows and hunting knives came from that goddess, explained the brunette. But why would that goddess make that sacred gear? Penemu asked the brunette. That weapon was given to the first hunter of Artemis and her lieutenant and was passed from lieutenant to lieutenant until it was lost. A few centuries ago it was found by the biblical god, identifying who said equipment came from. He went to Artemis and asked for the converted into a sacred gear. The goddess agreed and Elohim incorporated it into the system, Issei explained seriously. Everyone nodded at the explanation. What skills does Ice have? Rias asked seriously. I don't know. The reason that sacred gear is not known is because it developed its own consciousness and it is much more demanding than other sacred gear since it had only two wearers. Said users fell under the jurisdiction and protection of Artemis and those two carriers ended up joining their hunters, the brunette explained. Then we will have to deal with a goddess, Tiamat said seriously. Yes, she is the one who hates men and I am among those she hates the most, Issei said with a sigh. Don't worry, Ice-chan, if things get complicated I could deal with her or at least try, said Seraphil, encouraging the brunette. It's okay, we'll see what happens in the future, the brunette responded to the Mayu. After the talk they continued eating and talking about other topics until they decided to go to sleep. Issei's room. Issei had decided to go to sleep after dinner, leaning her body against his with her head lying on his chest was Penemu. Just like with Gabriel the first time it was decided that the fallen one would sleep with Issei, while the seraph settled down. In another room, returning to the couple, they were both hugging, with the cadre's naked body making firm contact with Issei's, who was caressing the Grigori leader's black hair. Is something happening, Nemu-chan? Issei asked softly. It's nothing, Ice-kun, the fallen one responded, denying. It's just that I was thinking about that sacred gear of your servant, Penemu said, raising her head from Issei's chest to look him in the eyes. What's up with that? The honey-eyed man asked again, caressing the cadre's cheeks. It's nothing important, I'm just a little surprised, the black-haired woman responded, enjoying the touch of the brunette. Don't think about it too much, yes, Issei said softly. The fallen woman only nodded and they stared into each other's eyes for a few seconds, appreciating each other. Shortening the distance, they melted into a soft kiss that conveyed the feelings they had. One for the other. After a few moments the kiss deepened, becoming much more passionate. Issei in a bold movement bit Penemu's lip, making her moan lightly. Taking advantage of that moment, Issei put his tongue in the fallen girl's mouth, exploring her. Greedily, at that moment the kiss became more heated, both sucked each other's lips desperately and exchanged saliva with pleasure. Issei turned so the two were on their sides. This caused the hug between them to strengthen even more, and their kiss deepened even more. A few moments passed before they finally separated and looked into each other's eyes. Penemu looked at Issei with bright and longing eyes. It didn't take long for both of them to immerse themselves in another kiss. Issei pushed the cadre remaining on top of her, separating himself from the kiss. The brown-haired man began to kiss the fallen girl's neck, making her sigh lightly with satisfaction. When he reached her breasts, the honey-eyed man stood appreciating them for a few moments and then put his head between them and began to distribute kisses. This action made Penemu giggle, who hugged the brunette's head, pressing it closer to her breasts. This happened for a few minutes until Issei stopped and looked into the cadre's eyes again, giving another kiss. Penemu turned around like this. Stay on top of the chestnut tree. Then he separated from the kiss and rested his head again on the chestnut tree's chest. I love you, Ice-kun, said the black-haired girl with love in her voice. Me too, Nemu-chan, answered the honey-eyed. It feels so comforting to be with you like this, it makes me feel so good, the fallen angel said again, making Issei smile. I think the same thing, said Issei, kissing the head of Grigori's leader. Good night, Ice-kun, said the cadre to the chestnut tree. "Good night Nimyu-chan," the brunette responded so that after a few moments the couple fell asleep soundly. Guo City Murayama House. The day was a normal day for the domain moon carrier. She got up, had breakfast and went to class. She was with her friend Caddis and watched Issei from the shadows. The normal thing for every day. If something interesting can be highlighted, it is that today she began her training with her pink-haired friend to help her and insert her into this crazy world. Having the help of Yuudo Kiba and Taojo Kaneko, one of the members of the nobility of Rias Gremory, who according to them was Issei, who asked her to please them. Trained and also received a call from the aforementioned inviting her and her friend to have breakfast at his house tomorrow. If he understood correctly, it is to introduce them to the person who was going to teach them magic. Currently the brunette is in her room sleeping peacefully. But this does not interest us. What is truly important is what is happening in your dreams. Murayama dream. The brunette was in a completely black place. She didn't see anything or anyone around her. This confused her to no end. "Where I am?" Murayama asked himself, trying to distinguish something around him. "Hello," said the brunette to see if someone would answer her. "Is there anyone here?" She continued asking, but got no answer. "Am I dreaming?" Murayama tried to move from his place, however he quickly noticed that he could not do so. Suddenly in the middle of all the darkness a white light appeared. It began to shine brightly and expand, causing Murayama to close his eyes. When the glow stopped he opened his eyes and found himself in a clearing surrounded by a large forest. Looking at the place he could see how in the center there was a girl who seemed to be her age meditating, being surrounded by some animals. The girl had hair that shone silver, she was wearing a dress of the same color, and was barefoot. From one moment to the next the girl opened her eyes and looked at Murayama. Her eyes were as deep black as the night. When she saw her, the girl stopped while the different animals dispersed and he gave the brunette a soft smile. This surprised the girl a little. The silver-haired girl approached Murayama with a firm step until she was in front of her. "We finally meet, partner," said the silver-haired girl. "Who are you?" Murayama asked a little cautiously. "I am the conscience of Domain Moon," the girl answered calmly. "Awareness of what?" the brunette asked confused. "Domain Moon, it is the sacred gear that you have," the silver-haired woman responded to her partner's doubt. "Ah, I understand," said the brunette with a nod. "What's your name?" "And where are we?" Murayama asked with doubt. "Oh, I apologize for my manners, my name is Celine," the now self-named Celine responded with an apologetic tone, "and we are currently in your subconscious," Celine said, answering the second question from her partner, who nodded in understanding. "You have a nice name," Murayama said, smiling for the first time at the girl in front of him. "Thank you, it is the name that my creator chose for me when my consciousness developed," Celine said to the girl, leaving her confused. "Do you mean God?" the brunette asked doubtfully and confused. That question made the silver-haired girl giggle. "You are wrong, partner, my creator is the Greek goddess of the moon and hunting Artemis. She gave me this name in commemoration of her predecessor," Celine responded, calming her giggles. The response made Murayama's eyes go into shock at such information. A sacred gear that was not created by the god of the Bible, how is it possible? Murayama asked, recovering a little from the surprise he received. "Well, you'll see about her," said the silver-haired woman, and then began to tell her the story of her and Domain Moon, surprising the brunette even more. "I understand, so you were included in the sacred gear system with the authorization of Artemis," Murayama said, nodding in understanding. "That's right, and you are my third carrier," Celine responded calmly. "And tell me, what abilities does my sacred gear have?" the brunette asked with great curiosity. Upon hearing her partner's question, the silver-haired girl laughed as if she found it amusing. "As you know, the sacred gear responds to the will of its wearer, so it can be said that it depends on you," Celine responded, looking the brunette in the eyes. "I understand," Murayama said, nodding his head. But the black-eyed woman said again, capturing the attention of her companion again, "It can be said that Domain Moon has a unique ability." Those words implanted curiosity in Murayama. "Unique ability?" the brunette asked. Celine just nodded her head. "What is that ability?" I asked curiously. "Divine possession," the silver-haired girl responded with a smile. What was said made Murayama tilt his head in confusion. "Divine possession?" the brunette asked with confusion. "As I told you before, having this sacred gear made Artemis your patron goddess and protector, as well as you her representative in the human world, and the sacred gear itself is a divine equipment imbued with the power of the goddess," Celine said, to which Murayama nodded. "Divine possession allows you to channel a part of Artemis's power into your body. Although said power is not much since it can overwhelm your body so much, it makes you very powerful for people who do not possess longinus. It can be said that you are at the top, and if you train and develop your body well you can become extremely powerful. It also allows you to communicate with various gods. Although for all this you need the help of a divine weapon or a god, and you possess both," the silver-haired girl explained seriously to a brunette who was in a state of shock at such information. "That's great," Murayama said with emotion. Celine smiled at her partner's excitement. "And tell me, if Domain Moon is above the sacred gears, does that mean she's a longinus?" The brunette asked, still in her ecstatic state, but her state fell when she saw the silver-haired girl shake her head. No, although Domain Moon is a higher level sacred gear, none of my former wearers, whether they are my ladies huntresses or my two wearers after I became a sacred gear, have reached a sufficient level to face it. Oh God, the black-eyed woman responded with a tone that seemed monotonous to Murayama, but then the girl looked at her and smiled. But I think you are different, I see potential in you, I notice that you have something special, and I know that you will bear the name of Domain Moon, mine and Artemis at the top, let's evolve together, Murayama Celine said with a shine in her eyes. Those words lifted the brunette's spirits, and Celine's gaze was reflected in her, a look that reflected conviction and determination. I promise that I will become very powerful, Celine Murayama said with determination. Both girls smiled and remained silent for a few moments. By the way, why is my mind a forest? Murayama asked, looking around. That is because it is suitable for your development, Celine responded calmly. You see, one of the steps to take to control divine possession is the purification of the mind, as well as you must isolate yourself from society to purify your body from time to time, the silver-haired woman explained, to which the brunette nodded. By the way, Artemis-sama already noticed my awakening, so he will surely visit you soon, the black-eyed woman warned her partner. It's okay, Celine Murayama responded a little anxiously. Now rest, tomorrow you will have a busy day, said the silver-haired girl again. Okay, see you later, Celine, the brunette said goodbye before disappearing from her mental space. Seeing her disappear, the black-eyed woman smiled. You will be a great companion and even more so if you stay by the Sekiryute's side, although we will see how my lady will take it, Celine said to herself. Next day, Haidu residence. The girls got up early to make breakfast, and there were quite a few of them every day. Rias, Asia, Akeno and Serafol divided up the chores to do it, and now these girls were joined by Gabriel, who wanted to be of help to them. This brought small fights with Serafol over the way of making the different foods for breakfast. This took a toll on Asia and Akeno and put Rias in a bad mood due to the childish and spoiled attitude that the Mayu of the underworld could have, who was acting as a girl. Without further ado, Rias intervened and had to put order so that breakfast could be done in peace. Several minutes passed in which the five of them were able to work as they should, and the breakfast was ready, so the black-haired Himejima notified the rest of girls who were in the room to set the table. Spending a few more minutes, they were finally able to bring what they were going to eat. While they were preparing for breakfast, Issei's parents appeared in the room, whom they all greeted happily, and then they all sat down and started with breakfast, being alone waiting for Issei and Penemu and their guests. Issei's room. In the brunette's room there was this one and a beautiful black-haired woman who was Penemu. Both were sleeping peacefully in each other's arms, enjoying the heat that the other generated. Suddenly the sun's rays began to invade the room, hitting the brunette's eyes. Disturbing her sleep, Issei slowly began to open his eyes and then ran his hands through them and woke up completely. After that, he looked down and saw the fallen girl sleeping with a soft smile on her face. Issei just gave her a kiss on her head and hugged her tighter. You are so beautiful, my beautiful angel, Issei said softly in a whisper to the black-winged angel. Penemu murmured in his sleep. This made the brunette smile. I'm here, beautiful, Issei whispered in the cadre's ear. Without the brunette realizing it, Penemu's smile widened. A few moments passed in which Issei enjoyed the company, gently stroking the hair of Grigori's leader. And affection, Penemu began to move, showing signs that she was going to wake up. Finally doing so, the cadre raised her head a little to wipe her eyes and look at Issei with a smile. Good morning, Ice-kun, said Penemu. Good morning, my queen, the brunette responded, and then they both gave each other a kiss, which with each passing second intensified more. Issei turned so that they were both on their sides, their hug strengthened and their legs intertwined carefully, embracing each other. Their bodies as much as they could, the brunette put his tongue into Penemu's mouth, who was not far behind, turning the kiss into an all-out tongue fight. Both sucked each other's lips eagerly, exchanging saliva with pleasure. Neither of them wanted each other separate from the other, transmitting their feelings as much as they could. A few minutes passed and they separated to take a breath, looking at each other with love, affection, longing and desire. How did you sleep, Nemu-chan? The brunette asked with an affectionate tone. Wonderfully, it's so relaxing and peaceful to sleep in your arms. It's been a long time since I've slept like this, the cadre responded with a loving smile, caressing Issei's cheek with her hand. I'm glad, said the honey-eyed boy, giving the fallen girl another kiss. Do you think we're going to have breakfast? Issei asked, separating from the kiss. The fall nodded, to which they both got up, got dressed and went down to eat breakfast. Living room. Issei and Penemu walked down the stairs, capturing the attention of those present who were at the table. Good morning, said the newcomers. Good morning, responded those present. How did you sleep, Naya? Kuroka asked with a mischievous smile, looking at the couple. Very good, Kuro-chan, Issei responded, smiling at the Nekomata, after which the brunette proceeded to kiss all the girls good morning, from Rias to Gabriel, while Penemu sat in one of the empty places, being followed by Issei. By the way, Murayama and Caddis haven't arrived. asked the chestnut. No ice, Rias answered calmly, and just when the redeed said that the doorbell rang, to which Issei got up to go open the door, when he did so he saw the girls mentioned above. Hello Ice-kun, Murayama greeted softly. Good morning Haidu, Kata said in a monotone tone. Good morning girls, Issei responded, stepping aside. Please come in, said the brunette, making a sign for them to come in. Thank you, both girls responded in unison, passing inside the residence. Then both girls greeted those present and sat in some places, and Issei returned to his. Well, Haidu, why did you invite us? Caddis asked a little abruptly. Murayama didn't tell you? Issei asked, surprised. Given what the brunette said, the pink-haired girl looked at her friend with a serious look. I forgot, Murayama said, laughing nervously, making some of them sweat and making Issei and Caddis eye. The reason I invited you was to introduce you to the person who taught you magic, Issei said, looking at Caddis, catching her attention. And who would that person be? Caddis asked. I'm also curious, Ice-kun, said Murayama, contributing his opinion. They will soon know, the brunette responded after saying that the doorbell rang again just right. The brunette spoke with a smile. Let me take care of you, said Rias, getting up from his seat. The brunette only nodded as the redeed went to open the door, being greeted by a blonde. Hello Ria-chan, said Lavinia, hugging the redeed in a friendly manner. How have you been? The magician asked again. I've been fine, the redeed responded, returning the hug, then separating from her, and both women entered the residence. Lavinia-sama, said La Fei, surprised, catching the attention of the aforementioned. Oh hello Fei-chan, it's been a while, answered the blonde wearing absolute demise. They know each other? Ravel asked, raising an eyebrow. We do it through our magical organizations, the Pendragon responded, to which the phoenix nodded in understanding. Welcome to my house, Lavinia, Issei said, getting up from the table, so the aforementioned looked towards him. Icon, he said with emotion, going towards the brunette and then giving him a kiss, which the brunette reciprocated. This left Murayama and Caddis with their mouths open, and the girls looked at Rias on reflection, who was smiling next to the boy's parents. Chestnut, after seeing that the girls just sighed. I should have guessed, they all thought in unison. Senpai does not change, Kaneko said in a whisper, watching as Issei and the girl separated from the kiss. As she did so, Lavinia's sight passed over a person who, upon seeing her there, was surprised. Enemu-sama, said the bearer of absolute demise in surprise. Hello Lavinia, how have you been? Replied the cadre, smiling at him. Okay, but what are you doing here? The beautiful blonde asked again. I live here, or at least I will, the fallen woman responded calmly. I see, Lavinia said, understanding. Do you also know her, sensei? Rainer asked, looking at the blonde seriously. She belongs to one of our best teams, Penemu replied, nodding. Lavinia, sit next to me, said the brunette after the exchange of words. Yes, Icon, the voluptuous blonde magician nodded, following the brunette. Well, for those who don't know her, she is Lavinia Rinai, a high-level magician, bearer of the Longinus absolute demise, and the self-proclaimed One-sama of Volley, said Issei, introducing the beautiful blonde. By doing so he surprised some, especially the last one. Why self-proclaimed, Icon? Lavinia asked with doubt. Because you sound like Irina when she says she's an angel, the brunette replied, smiling with amusement. Hey, I'm not self-proclaimed, Irina said with a touch of indignation in her voice. Yes, you are, Zenobia responded, smiling just like Issei. Don't give your opinion, Zenobia, said the orange-haired girl, looking at her upset friend. Irina-san, Zenobia-san, please don't fight, she intervened meekly. They look like a couple girls, they remind me of Serafal-sama, Kiara said, smiling with amusement. Hey, I don't act like a girl, said the Mayu with pigtails, pouting. If she does it, the Aligos responded indifferently. Ara, don't fight girls, Akeno said, ending the discussion. Does that mean you know some dark secret about Naya? Kuroka asked with a malicious smile, which Lavinia imitated when she saw her, returning everyone's attention to the two of them. If you fu Virginia-kun, I slept with a white dragon stuffed animal when I was a child, she replied maliciously, causing some to laugh. I think you and I will get along well, Naya, Kuroka said, smiling. I agree, answered the blonde with a beautiful figure. Leaving the volley issue still aside, Issei intervened. Lavinia, these are Murayama and Caddis, they are the girls I asked you to train, the brunette said, looking at both girls. It's nice to meet you, Lavinia-san, they both said, a little nervous. My pleasure, and tell me who is the bearer of Domain Moon? Lavinia asked with interest. That's me, Lavinia-san, said Murayama, making the magician pay attention to him. Domain Moon? Caddis asked, confused. It's my sacred gear, Caddis-chan, answered the brunette. I see that you already knew her name, Gabriel said to the girl, who nodded. And could you tell us how? Asked the blonde seraphim. Well, last night I was able to communicate with the consciousness of my sacred gear, Murayama responded. This caught everyone's attention. Oh, and what did they talk about? Rias asked, curious and interested. Tell me something, girl, did he tell you what kind of skills you have with her? Tiamat asked in the same way, the brunette just nodded. I have the ability of divine possession, and well the rest depends on me, since the sacred gear responds to the will of its wearer, answered Murayama. Upon hearing it the majority raised a curious eyebrow, while Issei, Rias, Tiamat, Seraphil, Penemu and Gabriel frowned. What are you talking about? Penemu asked seriously. Well, as you know, Artemis became my patron goddess. Divine possession allows me to use a part of her power, Murayama responded, a little intimidated by the woman's face. Does that mean you're something like a demigoddess? Irina asked, tilting her head in confusion. You could say yes, the brunette responded, a little doubtful, but that ability can bring various repercussions to my body, which is why I have to train hard, the brunette said, becoming serious. Everyone nodded at what was said. That's great, Mura-chan, Kata said to her friend, who smiled at her. You will have to train very hard, Murayama-chan, Issei said, fading the tension in the place, smiling at the girl. Yes, I promise to make myself very strong and make you proud, Ice-kun, the brunette responded enthusiastically. At this, the others also smiled. After the talk, breakfast continued normally, and when they finished training, she dreamed again, so this time it was Mickey who went to open. Issei, they are looking for you, her mother said when a blonde entered the place, who was surprised to see so many beautiful women next to Issei. Hello Saji, the brunette greeted with a smile. Damn Haidu, you are surrounded by beautiful women, I curse you, said the Citri pawn, turning in envy inside. Are you ready for today? The brunette asked again, taking the blonde out of his thoughts. Of course I am, Saji replied, coming to his senses. Ara, can you tell, ready for what? Akeno asked with her typical tone of voice. Well, today I start my training with Tannen for these 2 weeks before the faction meeting, and since I'm going to the underworld, I will accompany Saji to Grigori so they can give him the other parts of Ritra, the honey-eyed man responded, to which the girls nodded remembering. Who were informed of that, while Issei stood up from his place. If you're going to Grigori, I'll do it with you, said Penemu, getting up from her place too. I also have things to do there, said Lavinia, imitating the fallen woman. By the way, Murayama, Caddis, this afternoon we will begin her training, said the blonde magician to her new disciples, who nodded. You can use the training room, along with us, Lavinia-sama, said the magician Pendragon. Thanks Fei-chan, we will do it, Lavinia responded smiling. Wait Ice, if you are going to train with Tannen, how will I teach you to use my flames? Tiamat asked, intervening. Don't worry, Matt-chan, I will leave a clone so as not to miss classes these 2 weeks, you can teach him, Issei responded calmly, a magic circle appearing from which another Issei was formed. It's okay, the light-haired girl responded, sighing. Well, are you ready? Issei asked, opening a dimensional crack. Lavinia, Penemu and Saji nodded and saying goodbye to everyone, they passed through the crack. Gregory, Azazel was in his office doing his things when a dimensional crack opened, capturing her attention, and Issei and his companions emerged from it. So they finally arrive, said Azazel looking at Issei, Saji, Lavinia and Penemu, who sent a disinterested look at his leader. Well Ice-kun, I'll go to work, said the cadre, and then gave the brunette a kiss and got lost in the corridors of Grigori. I'll leave too, kun, said Lavinia, imitating Grigori's leader, leaving the place, while the other men in the place sent envious glances at the brunette. I see you had a hectic morning, Ice, said Azazel, looking at the brunette. It's normal in my daily life, the brunette replied, shrugging his shoulders. I see that you brought the boy, said the governor of the fallen angels looking at Saji. Yes, you can give him the rest of Ritra's sacred gear at once, the honey-eyed man said to the fallen man, who nodded. Yes, are you ready? Azazel asked the blonde, who nodded. Well, the process of this will take a while, he said again. You will need rigorous training to use it, that's why you will come here to train after the faction meeting. In the meantime, you will have to get the other parts used to it. Of Ritra and make him wake up, the cadre explained seriously. I understand, Azazel-sama, Saji responded with conviction. I like that attitude, boy, said the fallen man smiling. Follow me, he said again. Well, if you don't need me anymore, I'm going to train with Tannen, Issei said, opening another dimensional crack. The other two just nodded. See you, Issei, they both said goodbye, to which the brunette returned the greeting, before disappearing. Now let's go get your sacred gears, Azazel said. Saji nodded, and they both got lost in Grigori's hallways. Underworld Tannen territory. In the territory of the former Dragon King, a dimensional crack opened from which Issei emerged. Well, we're here, Drake, said the honey-eyed man to his friend. That's right, mate, now you just have to get his attention, answered the Welsh dragon. I'll take care of it, Issei answered out loud and then unleashed his aura, increasing his power to attract Tannen's attention. After a few moments, a large violet dragon descended from the sky. Who are you? And what are you doing in my territory? Tannen said with an authoritative voice, looking at the brunette. I am Haidu, Issei, the current Sekiryuite, the brunette responded with seriousness in his voice. That statement surprised the great dragon. The Sekiryuite, said Tannen, analyzing Issei. It's been a while, Tannen, Drake said from Issei's left arm. Drake, said the violet dragon, looking at the chestnut's arm. Yes, it has been. And tell me why you come here? Tannen asked, looking at Issei. I want you to train me, Issei responded seriously. Train yourself. Tannen asked with curiosity, do you want to learn how to use the boosted gear better? The dragon spoke again. Ahaha, no, Tannen, my partner has full use of the boosted gear, Drake responded laughing. I want you to help me use this, Issei said when a white and blue glow appeared on his right arm, revealing a white gauntlet, surprising the dragon in front of him. This is the dividing gear. It is a pseudo-sacred gear that you acquire when implanting on my body one of the jewels of the hacker Yuku after our fight. You can say that it has the same characteristics as the divine dividing, explained the brunette, to which Tannen nodded. I understand that you want me to help you control the power that you acquired from Albion, said Tannen thoughtfully. The brunette nodded. Well, I will do it. Get ready, Haidu, Issei the great dragon said again with a smile. Upon hearing it, Issei also smiled. Very well, let's begin, Issei said enthusiastically. In this way the training with the former Dragon King Tannen began, and thus the 2 weeks for the faction meeting flew by. S2 Chapter 47. The meeting of factions. 2 weeks later, Issei's room. The 2 weeks of training with Tannen had passed, being very fruitful for Issei, who today had returned to the residence with the girls welcoming him with joy. He was currently in his room, his back leaning on the back of the bed. On his lap with her body leaning against his was Rias. Both of them were spending quality time together, something that hadn't happened in a while. But the magic circle of silence placed in the room so that none of the other girls would disturb them. Something that they had to reluctantly accept when Rias confronted them, arguing that it was time for her and Issei to spend some time together since they hadn't done it in a while. How was your ice training? Rias asked, resting his head more on the chestnut tree's chest. Well, my use of dividing gear improved, Issei responded calmly. And? I know that's not all, said Rias with knowledge about Issei. You know me well, Rias, Issei replied, amused. That's clear, ice, my ice, the Redid responded, smiling haughtily. I was also training with the power of office and the power of destruction, Issei said smiling. Did you develop something interesting? Asked the interested Redid. I did it. I have a couple of interesting abilities with the power of office, and I got quite used to the power of destruction. In fact, I based myself a little on Surzich's Nai-sama and delved into that power of yours. Currently my deployed aura can serve as a shield. Obviously it does not work on attacks from beings with enough power to be able to penetrate it, but I can proudly say that I could face the Citri group without any scratches in terms of magical attacks. That is until Saji manages to master his power or they become strengthened them. They are still weak. I also managed to combine it with my balance breaker, Issei explained, surprising the Redid with his words. That's impressive, eyes. To think that you reached that point with the power of the Baal. I'm proud, Rias said proudly, looking at the brunette with affection. This caused Issei to smile. What about you? Did you talk about the sacred demonic sword with Nai-sama? The brunette asked with interest. The Redid nodded her head. Yes, in fact he is very interested in it. They will begin to be produced after the faction meeting, the Grimoire responded to Issei's question. That's good, but I can't have Arena and Cadis with those swords. I'll have to get them some for the next battles in which we will participate, said the honey-eyed man thoughtfully. Well, I don't think getting Arena a sword is a problem, as you know, but what are you going to do with Cadis-an? The Redid answered, asked with interest, to which Issei shrugged his shoulders. I don't know yet, I'll see later, the brunette replied. Changing the subject, tomorrow is the meeting, said Rias, getting closer to Issei, who tightened his grip on the girl's waist. Yes, it is, Issei said with a sigh. What do you suggest we do? Asked. Well, I was thinking about leaving Murayama and Cadis with Gasper and Kaneko, but they are not yet prepared enough to face a horde of magicians, and that the same thing as the last time won't happen, so I will also leave Kiara and Lafay with the 6 of them will be enough, the brunette responded, explaining his plan. The Redid nodded. It seems good to me. Lafay is one of the best magicians I know apart from Lavinia, of course, and Kiara has improved enormously in this time. She can unleash her potential. With the 2 of them, Kaneko will not be overwhelmed, while Murayama, Cadis and Gasper act as support, Rias added, making the brunette nod with a smile. But Cadis-an will need a weapon, said the Redid, raising an important point. I will give her a Peros, Issei responded. The demon only nodded. And what will you do with Vali? Rias asked with intrigue. Nothing, answered the honey-eyed. Nothing? Rias asked without believing it. Issei just nodded. I already gave him the fight that he wanted so much. If he wants to do his act and fight, he will have to do it alone, Issei responded calmly. I am interested in another individual in that meeting, Issei said with a fire in his eyes. Oh, and will you fight him? Rias asked, capturing Issei's enthusiasm. I will do it, the brunette replied. And can we know who that individual is? The Redid asked with curiosity, although she had an idea and she didn't like it at all. That's a secret, Issei replied, amused. This made Rias sigh. There is no way to change your mind, right? The Redid asked, knowing the answer, but he had to do it. No, the brunette answered without further ado. In that case, he will have no choice but to support you, Ice, Rias responded with a resigned smile. Thank you, Rias, Issei said, taking the Grimoire's head, turning it to give her a kiss. The Redeed finished turning and responded with pleasure to the kiss, which began to deepen, with Rias putting her tongue in the brunette's mouth, who she responded eagerly, turning into a battle of tongues. Issei moved a little to lie down on the bed, dragging the Redeed with him, being held by the waist with strength and firmness, while he caressed Issei's hair lovingly. A few minutes passed, in which both exchanged saliva enthusiastically, until they separated due to lack of air, staring into each other's eyes with intensity. "Do you think if we sleep, tomorrow will be a long day?" said Rias. Issei only nodded at what was said, so the girl snuggled into the chestnut tree, resting her head on her chest. "Good night, Ice," said the Redeed smiling. "Good night, Rias," the honey-eyed man responded, tightening her grip on her even more. After a few moments they both fell asleep soundly. Next day, Kuo Academy. On the outskirts of the academy there was a white-haired man looking at the place, while he stayed in the air with his wings. This was Vali Lucifer, the current hacker Yuaku. "So this boring meeting will be here," said the albino, staring at the academy. "Everything seems boring to you," Vali said, a stoic voice. The aforementioned looked towards the voice and saw a short black-haired woman with black eyes. "Office," said Vali, looking back at the academy. "What can I say? It is not my fault that the current world is this way." The white-haired man responded to what Office had previously said. "You don't like the current world?" the black-haired girl asked, looking at the albino with his emotionless gaze. "The world without God, I would have liked to fight with that guy," Vali responded in resignation. "There are still powerful beings in this world," the black-haired woman responded with her monotonous voice. "I know, that's why I'm with you," the albino responded. "Tell me, will you be present at that meeting?" asked Vali with interest. "Yes, although it may seem boring to you, that meeting will be the most interesting thing I have witnessed in a long time," the black-eyed woman responded. That answer surprised the white-haired man. "What could that meeting have that interests you so much?" asked Vali, confused. "The rival Office responded. "So you became interested in Haidu Issei," said the white-haired man, smiling as he remembered his rival. "Haidu Issei, so that's his name," said Office, smiling. When Vali noticed it, he was extremely surprised. "Wow, I see that Haidu Issei must have something for you to be so excited to meet him," said Vali, coming out of surprise. "That boy has many secrets, Vali, and I want to discover them all," the black-haired woman responded, looking at a specific point, so the albino looked where she was looking and smiled. From the academy courtyard, his rival was staring at them both, exchanging glances. The two smiled wildly, and then the brunette looked at Office with a calculating look and then re-entered the building. "He noticed our presence," said Vali. "Yes, and not only that, I think he knows who I am," said Office, still looking at where Issei was a few moments before. "How are you so sure?" asked Vali. "Just a feeling," answered the black-haired woman. "If you say so," the white-haired man said, shrugging his shoulders. "As I said before, Vali hides many secrets," Office said with a touch of interest in her voice. "Soon we will meet Haidu Issei, and you will answer my questions," Office said, smiling. That gave the white-haired man chills. He was used to the emotionless Office and stoic. This smiling and expressive did not generate anything good. Hours later, a cult club. In the club, all the members were preparing everything before the meeting. "Well, Gasper, you will stay here at the club while we go to the meeting," Rias said to the vampire. "It's okay, Rias, but you," the silver-haired man responded, sitting inside his box. "Here you go, I downloaded a couple of games," said Issei, passing a laptop to the vampire, who received it with joy. "Thank you, I-senpai," Gasper thanked the honey-eyed. "Kaneko-chan, he will stay with you," Rias said again. "Murayama, Caddis, Kiara and Lafay will do it too," said Issei, receiving a nod from the aforementioned. Ara, don't you think you're overprotecting him?" Akeno asked, smiling. "No, Akeno, there are many people who are against the alliance. We could be attacked," the Gremory responded seriously. This surprised the others a little. "Don't you think you're exaggerating a little?" Rainer asked calmly. "No, Ray-chan, it's not an exaggeration, it's prevention," Issei responded seriously. "That's why," said the brunette, a magic circle appearing from which a black sword came out. "This was a Peros. I'll give you my Caddis sword, use it well." He came back, Issei said, passing the sword to the pink-haired girl, who grabbed it hesitantly. "It's a little heavy," said Caddis, moving it a little, getting used to it. "Will it be difficult for you to use it?" Rias asked, looking at the girl. "It's not that, I'll be fine," Caddis replied. "Well, use it wisely and do not be afraid to do so. In this world it is necessary to remember it. It may be difficult for you at first, but you will get used to it and you will overcome it. Brandish the sword to protect your companions," Issei said seriously. "Yes, Issei," the pink-haired girl answered with confidence. "Ifufu," it came out inspiring, Naya Kuroka said, amused, causing Issei to look at her intensely. This, instead of intimidating her, made her laugh more. "You will do well, you are a very good user," Kiba said cheerfully. "Thank you, Kiba-kun," Caddis responded gratefully. "Well, to finish, Ravel the chestnut tree called the phoenix." "Yes, I-sama," the blonde responded, taking a step forward, taking out a vial with a red liquid from between her clothes, giving it to Issei. "Well, Gasper, this is a little of my blood, use it if necessary," Issei said seriously. "No, I don't like blood," Gasper said with fear in his voice. Pathetic vampire attempt, Kaneko murmured, being heard by the aforementioned. You're bad, Kaneko-chan, Gasper said, lowering her head. Enough, Gasper, Issei said, startling the aforementioned, making him look the brunette in the eyes. You are a vampire, act like one, the honey-eyed man said with annoyance. Did you forget the rules of the Gremory group, boys? Issei asked, looking at the silver-haired man with intensity in his eyes. No, Gasper said, sticking out his chest in confidence. Rule number 1 of the boys in the Gremory family, boys must always protect girls, Gasper said, determination flashing in his eyes. This made Issei, Kiba and Rias smile, and surprise to the others. Rule number 3 of the boys in the Gremory group, the boys get up no matter what, Gasper said again, clenching his fists with enthusiasm. Rule number 3 of the boys in the Gremory group, no matter what happens, you must not give up, Gasper shouted, his eyes shining with determination, making those present smile. Will you stay here with 5 girls, let them fight on their own and be a nuisance, or will you stand up and fight and protect them? Issei asked seriously, extending her hand for the silver-haired man to grab the vial. I will protect them, no matter what it costs me, I promise you, senpai, Gasper responded with determination, grabbing the vial in his hands. That's how Gasper speaks, Issei said proudly. He has a spirit, said Zenobia, to which Kuroka and Irina nodded in agreement. He has improved in this time, Ice-kun knew how to motivate him, Irina said with a soft smile. And we like to torture him, Naya said, Kuroka smiling maliciously. You don't mean train him? Irina asked, looking at her partner. I hope we haven't traumatized poor Gasper, said Zenobia with a sigh. Ice has made him understand that Naya is necessary, and he has handled it quite well to be the Naya, Kuroka said, licking one of her hands. I'm proud of you, Gasper, said Rias with pride in her voice. Thank you, but you, Gasper replied, smiling. Okay guys, it's time to attend the meeting, Akeno said, drawing everyone's attention. Well, see you later, said the redeed, saying goodbye to the 6 who would stay in the club. Please be attentive and take care of yourselves, she said again before leaving the room with the others, but not before receiving a nod from the vampire and the 5 girls. Guo Academy meeting room, where the meeting would take place, were Surzich's Lucifer, Seraphol Leviathan, along with Grafia Lucifuge, Sona Citri and her entourage, Michael with Gabriel, Azazel with Penemu and finally Volley Lucifer. The wait for this meeting to begin is over. When the door opened and revealed Issei and Rias with their respective entourages. We are here, Nai-sama, said Rias looking at her brother. Well, we were waiting for you, the red-haired Mao responded, while Issei gave a silent greeting to Seraphol, Gabriel and Penemu, who returned it happily. Well, starting with the meeting, could you start by telling us how this whole Kakabiel problem started? Surzich's asked. Rias was going to take a step forward to speak, but she was stopped by a hand. When she saw who stopped her, she saw Issei, who shook his head. She nodded, so the brunette took a step forward. It all started about 2.5 months ago when a group of fallen angels arrived in Kuo, the same fallen angels that killed me, Rainer being the one who did it, Issei began to explain, capturing the attention and interest of the leaders, the shock of the Citri group, and that the aforementioned lowered her head. Sona was about to intervene because she was not informed of that, but she was stopped when Issei began to speak again. Being on the verge of death, Rias reincarnated me, and there we began to train me to take care of the problem. A few days later Asia arrived, being summoned by the fallen. These were 4, the other 3 were called Kalawiner, Donasik and Middle. Being helped by freed Selzin and several renegade exorcists, their objective was to take the sacred gear from Asia. But I avoided it. I became strong enough to defeat Rainer. When she found Asia and me, at that moment I took her to my house to ask her some questions, and I took Asia with Rias to reincarnate her, between which Rainer confessed to me. It was that the one who sent them to Kuo was Kakabiel, the brunette continued explaining, looking at the fallen girl, and then caressing her cheek, causing her to close her eyes, opening them when she felt Issei kiss her on the forehead. Then I proposed to her to be my second servant. After she accepted, we attacked the church where her companions were, and we got rid of them, the chestnut finished explaining. I understand, so this Kakabiel thing comes from a long time ago, Surzich said with a sigh. Did you know about this, sister? Michael asked, looking at Seraphim. Yes, we all do, Gabriel responded simply, receiving a nod from Seraphol and Penemu. Rias, why didn't you inform me about that? Sona asked with annoyance. I did not do it. Rias asked innocently, bothering the black-haired Citri even more. You didn't, you just told us that Rainer was one of Issei's servants, Sona responded with irritation clear in her voice. I don't know what the problem is, Rainer joined us, she is Issei's servant and one of his women, Rias said indifferently. What is the problem? The black-haired Citri asked, clenching her fists. Kuo is also my territory, you must inform me of things like that, Sona shouted to the redeed. Both of them looked at each other for a few moments, tensing the atmosphere. Enough, so, Seraphol intervened firmly, stopping her little sister's tantrum. But one Isama, said Sona looking at her sister. I understand how you feel, but you can't do anything now. The only thing you can do is wait until Rias-chan doesn't do it again, said the pigtailed Mao to reassure her sister. Seraphol is right, Rias, said Surziches, making the redeed sigh. "It's okay, I won't keep any other important information to myself," said Rias, looking at the Citri. "Do you agree with that?" Sona asked. "Please, it would be the most optimal for the administration and protection of our territory," the black-haired woman responded to her friend. "Well then, let's continue with what we were doing," Michael said, calling everyone's attention. "Issei-kun, anything else to say?" the leader of heaven asked again. "Well, after that, Kakabiel entered Kuo about 3.5 weeks ago with a stolen Excalibur, being followed by freed Selzin and Balba Galilei, with the aim of attacking the heirs of the city and starting a new war, but that was already. I explained it to them as the conflict developed," the brunette responded, so the leaders nodded. "Is there anything that the leader of the fallen angels would like to add?" Michael asked, looking at Azazel. "Kakabiel acted on his behalf," said the color-haired man with indifference. "Do you mean you can't keep your subordinates in line?" Serafal asked, looking seriously. "You can't expect much from a lazy person who doesn't care about work, Serafal," Penemu said with an amused tone. "Azazel, you should spend less time in your laboratory and bars and take care of your faction more," Gabriel said sternly. The exchange of words between the three women made some smile and caused the ruler of the fallen angels to fall a little. "Enough of all this talk and let's sign the treaty, it's why we are here after all, and what we all want," Azazel said with seriousness in his voice. "Besides, it's not like I didn't do anything. I told Issei to take care of it from Kakabiel," said the cadre, again trying to recover from what the female leaders had said previously. "As I understand it, Issei was the one who looked for you," Michael said, looking at his fallen brother. Details, Azazel responded, exchanging glances with Issei, who smiled at him. "Besides, we can't have peace if we have your subordinates loose out there attacking us," Serzicha said seriously. "You say it as if renegade demons did not exist," Azazel counterattacked, leaving the Retid silent. "That's a good point," Michael said, smiling. "Those are things we can take care of later," said Azazel, without giving it much importance. "Now I think the time has come to ask the individuals who can change the course of the world for you," said the color-haired man, looking at Issei and Vali Sekiryute. "Hakuryuku, what do you think of this peace?" asked the fallen one. "I don't care, as long as they let me live in peace with my women and be able to have one or another fight with powerful beings from time to time," Issei responded, smiling wildly. "It doesn't matter to me too, as long as I can fight powerful beings," said Vali, imitating Issei's smile. "They're not that different," Saji murmured, listening to his entourage companions, who couldn't disagree. "Very well then, it is decided, peace will be made," Azazel said, smiling satisfied, making his leading counterpart sigh, since it was a bit hasty, but that did not mean that they did not agree, so they nodded to Azazel's words. S2 Chapter 48. Cow's Brigade. Occult Club. Currently there were the remaining members of the Occult Club and the members of the Kendo Club, chatting and having a good time eating the sweets that Kaneko had brought, although if you paid attention, you could notice that there was nervousness and tension in the atmosphere. This was because the Issei and Rias words were still in everyone's minds. Then Kaneko stood up and sharpened her senses, and then clicked her tongue. "It seems that Butchu and I senpai were right," thought the albino, capturing several presences around the building and even inside it. "Even though they warned us, I was careless," Kaneko said to herself in her thoughts, frowning. "Is something wrong, Kaneko-chan?" Gasper asked, looking at his friend. "It seems that Ai-sama was right," she said seriously. "What do you mean, Fei-chan?" Caddis asked the blonde Pendragon. "Get ready, we are being surrounded," Kaneko said seriously. This made Kiara get up from her place and made Gasper, Caddis and Murayama nervous, who went to the window and opened it, seeing several magicians surrounding the building and others entering. "You go out of the club, you are entering the building. I will take care of those outside," said Murayama, his sacred gear appearing, and then he took out an arrow from his quiver and shot it towards a magician, hitting him in the chest. The latter caught the attention of several enemies. Murayama only smiled when the arrow that pierced the magician disappeared to reappear in the quiver. "But will you be okay, Mura-chan?" Caddis asked, worried about her friend. "Don't worry, I'm more resistant at night," the brunette said confidently. The others just nodded and then left the club. Murayama took out a couple of arrows to place them in the bow. "Are you ready, Celine?" asked the brunette with determination. "Let's do this, mate," the silver-haired girl responded enthusiastically. "Oh great goddess Artemis, please listen to my prayer and help me by blessing my aim to finish off my enemies," Murayama said, praying to his patron goddess. After doing so, both arrows on the bow began to shine with a faint silvery white aura. Upon seeing this, the brunette smiled and shot both arrows towards her enemies. As she did so, the two arrows multiplied, becoming 10, which hit their targets, causing them to fall to the ground. "Great," said the domain moon wielder enthusiastically. "I see that you are not very affected by the fact that you killed those magicians," said Celine calmly. This made the brunette's condition decline a little, becoming serious, and she responded. "It's not that, it's just that Issei-kun has been mentally preparing me for these situations. I know I have to do it to protect my companions," Murayama said, taking out another arrow, when the 10 arrows that crossed different magicians disappeared and the two used returned. to the quiver. I understand, will you use a little of what you learned with that magician, asked the black-eyed woman, her voice showed that she was smiling. I will do it, Murayama said out loud when her arrow was covered in fire magic and shot through another magician, burning him inside. Just don't rush, even if it is at night. Your previous aura attack drained a lot of your resistance, and you are still not prepared to withstand several, although you may not feel it due to the enthusiasm and adrenaline of the moment. When you finish you will be exhausted, partner Celine warned seriously. It's okay, it's not like I can do much more than use elemental magic on my arrows. Currently, the brunette responded, launching another arrow. This one, like the first one, was normal without any additional power. Don't be confused, Murayama, you can do whatever you want with your sacred gear, even give different characteristics to the arrows you use. Don't forget that your sacred gear depends on your will, said the silver-haired girl seriously. Murayama just nodded. Before shooting another arrow, its tip this time wrapped in ice, hitting its target. But the rest. Asper and the rest of the girls left the club heading towards the exit of the old building. They did not advance much when turning into a hallway. They met several magicians, who upon seeing them fired several magical attacks at them. Le Fay acted quickly and stood in front of everyone, summoning a magic circle of defense around him. It looks like we won't be able to leave without a fight, Kiara said, looking seriously at the magicians, while she stiffened her arms and legs with Earth Magician. So it seems, said Le Fay, holding the magic circle. Are you ready for the truth? The blonde asked, looking at the pink-haired girl, who nodded and, a little trembling, took up arrows and put herself on guard. Don't hesitate, remember that this is for your survival, Le Fay said again. Cadis only hardened her gaze and determination. Let's finish it as quickly as possible, we have to meet with the others, Kaneko said monotonously, adjusting her gloves. But what about Mura-chan? Cadis asked, still worried about her friend. She'll catch up with us later, Kiara said seriously. Are you ready, Jaya-kun? Kaneko asked, looking at the vampire who was trembling. He just looked at the albino and nodded with doubt, but he did. Well, let's attack then, said Le Fay, disappearing the magic circle. So Kaneko and Kiara shot towards the magicians, hitting two of them in the chest, sending them flying a few meters. Without wasting time, both towers began to fly. Fight with the rest, punching and kicking some and dodging attacks from others. Quickly a couple of magicians were about to take both girls off guard, but were pierced by an ice spear. Thank you, Fei-chan, Le Fay senpai said, both towers thanking the blonde. There's no reason, I'll support them, said the Pendragon with a smile. All this while Cadis and Gasper looked statically at everything that happened. The pink-haired woman quickly hardened her determination and launched herself with the arrows into the attack. She slashed a magician in his back. Chest, wounded another in his right side, leaving him on the ground. He stabbed another in his stomach and cut off the head of one more, which fell to the ground. Upon recovering from his attack of adrenaline and anxiety, he saw with horror what she had done and stood still as she trembled, not realizing that a magical attack was coming towards her. Hadis and Sama senpai, everyone shouted. Do not be afraid to use the sword. If it is to protect your loved ones, do not hesitate and do it. Issei's words returned to his mind when a lone tear came out of his right eye. He looked at the attack with determined eyes and jumped away. As far as he could, dodging it, making his companions breathe a sigh of relief. I'm sorry guys, I was only shocked for a moment, but I'm fine now, the pink-haired girl said to her classmates, who nodded. Thank you, Ice-kun, Cadis thought, closing her eyes. A few moments passed before she opened them again. When she did so a moment later, a new shine was evident in their eyes. Kiara and Kaneko stood next to them. The three nodded to each other and shot forward, defeating each magician who crossed them with their strength and skill with the sword. Being supported by Le Fay, they quickly went, finishing off the magicians, but as they defeated them more and more of them appeared, being overwhelmed by numbers. Asper-kun, help us, said Le Fay, looking at the vampire, who was trembling. Asper reacts, Kiara said this time to the vampire, but he didn't move. Dia-kun, maybe you won't keep the promise you made to Ai-senpai, you will disappoint him, Kaneko shouted, returning the silver-haired boy to the real world, who opened his eyes. I will not do it, I will fulfill the promise I made to Ai-senpai, I will protect them, Gasper said with renewed determination, taking out the vial of blood from his clothes, and then taking it. I swear that I will keep my promise, Gasper shouted when his eyes began to shine, and all the magicians were arrested. Well done, Gasper, Le Fay said with a sigh. You were late, Kiara said, smiling. What is this power? Cadis asked, surprised. Forbidden Baylor View, it is a sacred gear that allows you to stop time, Kaneko responded seriously. The pink-haired girl only nodded. Who will take care of them? Le Fay asked, looking at the frozen wizards. I do it, Kiara said, smiling. When the temperature of the environment began to rise drastically, and the orange-haired woman began to surround herself with a reddish-orange aura with brown tints, and the floor began to melt. But what does this mean? Cadis asked in shock. It is the demonic power of Kiara-senpai, said Kaneko, moving away a little from the aforementioned due to the heat that her aura emanated. She can control the lava, Le Fay said, surprising the pink-haired girl. Those present only watched as the hot liquid drained from the orange-haired girl's fingers, falling to the ground, burning it, concentrating. The lava in her hands began to become spherical. Applying more power, it enlarged and then looked at the frozen magicians and threw the lava ball at them. When the demon's power ceased, magicians could be seen melted, others turned into ashes and the walls burned, leaving those present surprised. "You can now undo your power," Gasper Kun Kiara said with a smile. The vampire only nodded with a little fear towards the girl, who after that finished burning the melted bodies. "I see you're done," said a voice behind them. Everyone looked and saw Murayama sweating from exhaustion and breathing heavily, but ultimately unharmed. Murray-chan, Caddis said, going to hug her friend. "I hope you did well, Caddis-chan," said the brunette, reciprocating the hug. The pink-haired girl only nodded when they separated from the hug. "Are you okay?" asked LeFay, seeing his tired companion. "I am, I can continue a little more," Murayama responded, smiling at the blonde, who nodded. "We have to get to where the meeting is taking place," Kaneko said seriously. Everyone nodded in agreement with the Nekomata. "I will notify Isama," LeFay said, a communication circle appearing in her ear, contacting her leader. Guo Academy meeting room. After Azazel's words, the place was silent for a few moments until Issei spoke. Michael Sama, the brunette, called the blonde seraphim, who looked at him before the pieces signed. "I would like to ask you something," Issei said seriously. "Tell me, what do you want, Issei-kun?" Michael asked, looking kindly at the current Sekiryu. "I would like you to let Asia and Zenobia pray," said the honey-eyed man seriously. That statement surprised more than one person. "Ice," said Zenobia, surprised. "Ice," and said Asia with crystalline eyes. "Why are you asking for us?" asked the ex-nun. The blue-haired girl nodded, wanting to hear the answer. "Because I know that it is important to you and I want you to have that right," Issei responded. Upon hearing this, both girls just hugged him. "Thank you," they both said, happy for what the brunette was doing for them. "Okay, I'll fulfill your request, Issei-kun," Michael said, smiling kindly. Issei just nodded gratefully. At that moment, a magical circle of communication appeared in the honey-eyed man's ear, drawing everyone's attention. When Rias saw him, she became serious. "Very good, Faye, come here, we'll take care of the rest. Kill anyone who crosses you," Issei said seriously. That statement impacted more than one. "Again?" Rias asked the brunette, who nodded, while he looked at Volley seriously. He just smiled at him, seeking to provoke his rival, but Issei didn't even flinch. "We'll see who wins," Issei told him and then looked away. "What is happening, Ice-chan?" Serafal asked, looking at the brunette. "Who started Riaso?" The red-haired Mayu asked seriously. "We are being attacked," Issei said seriously, surprising those present. "Attacked by who, Haidu-kun?" asked Sona stoically. "Look," said Issei, approaching the window, so the rest of those present did so and were surprised to see a bunch of magicians attacking the place. These magicians tried to use Gasper's sacred gear to stop time and get the weak out of the way, but we left it under the protection of Kaneko, Kiara, Caddis, Murayama and LeFay, Issei said seriously. "You protected him, does that mean you knew about this attack?" Azazel asked shrewdly. That surprised some. "We assumed it," Rias responded, "but who would be crazy enough to attack a faction leaders meeting?" Sona asked seriously. "Someone who does not agree with this alliance," Issei said seriously. "In other words, the anti-Mau faction," said Rias seriously. This surprised the leaders. "It seems like you have a lot of information, Ice," said Azazel, smiling. "I also know everything about a certain brigade that we know, Azazel," the brunette answered, smiling while he looked at Volley seriously. "I see," the fallen man responded. "What are they talking about, Azazel?" Michael asked stoically. "That doesn't matter now, look," Gabriel said, finally speaking, so everyone paid attention outside the building and saw how all their forces were being teleported. "The teleportation spell?" asked Ravel. "Yes, that means there is a traitor among us," said Penemu would be. "The traitor?" Irina asked doubtfully. "Yes," said Issei, looking at the white-haired man. "Volley, since you are there doing nothing, why don't you take care of the obstacles?" said Issei, smiling. "I was waiting for you to say that, I was already getting bored," the white-haired man responded, mirroring the brunette's expression, and then left the place to fight with the magicians. "Balance breaker," said Volley, activating his armor. "Vanishing dragon balance breaker." Albion's voice was heard when the albino was covered by the armor. "Well, for now, relax, Volley will take care of the magicians," Issei said to the leaders, who relaxed and returned to their seats. "What do you know, Issei?" Azazel asked seriously, drawing everyone's attention. "The same as you know," the brunette responded enigmatically, making the fallen man sigh. "What are they hiding from us?" Michael asked seriously. "Everything in its time, Michael. First you have to take care of the obstacles," Issei responded, leaving some with doubt, but that doubt was resolved when the roof of the place was destroyed. A brown woman with glasses appeared from the rubble. "Viteria-chan," said Serafal, looking at the newcomer. "Hello, fake Mayu," said the brunette with a devilish smile, while the rest became serious. "Viteria Leviathan," Serzicha said seriously. What he said surprised the Citri group. "Oh hello fake Lucifer," Kateria said cynically. "That's what they meant by the anti-Mao faction. It is made up of the descendants of the previous Mao," Sona thought wisely. "Kateria-chan, why are you doing this?" asked Serafal. Upon hearing the question, Kateria started to laugh. "Because?" the brunette asked with irony. "Because you took away what belongs to us. Those positions correspond to us, the descendants of the original Mao, and it will be the day we will claim it," Kateria said proudly. "You damn bitch dared to usurp the name of Leviathan when it doesn't belong to you," said the brunette with venom in her voice. "I didn't do such a thing," Serafal refuted. The woman's words hurt her. Kateria spit out blood when a sword was stuck in her chest. She is Ascalon being wielded by Issei. That surprised summoned the demon herself, since she realized that the sword that crossed her is a sacred one. "You talk a lot, Leviathan," Issei said coldly. "Who are you?" the brunette asked, turning her head a little to look at Issei. "You shouldn't have insulted Sarah-chan, you damn whore," the brunette said with venom in his voice. "Ice-chan," said the Mao, looking at how the honey-eyed man defended her. "You call yourself Leviathan and you can't even manipulate its element, an element which Serafal can manipulate. That's why she was chosen for that position. You are very proud of your ancestry, and the only thing you are is ashamed to it," Issei said mockingly. "In your voice, you bastard," Kateria spoke, but was interrupted when Issei stuck the sword deeper into her chest. Then he took out said sword and turned the demon Leviathan around, and before the attentive gaze of everyone he gave her a kiss on the lips, surprising the others present, who saw how a purple snake came out of the brunette's mouth and entered Issei's mouth, then separated from the kiss, and a purple aura with black touches began to surround him, and his power increased, being noticed by those present, while the demon fell to the ground on her knees, being followed by Issei, who stood in front of her. "And worst of all, you use someone else's power, but what would you expect from someone weak?" Issei said with a mocking smile. "What did you do to me?" Kateria asked weakly, looking at Issei. "I only stole the power that office gave you," Issei responded indifferently, surprising everyone with what he said. "It is a skill that I developed that allows me to both steal and provide that power. I call it Reino Ouroboros," Issei said smiling. "How is it possible? Office is supposed to be the only one who can do that," said Kateria in a state of shock. "Well, not anymore, now I can too," Issei said laughing, but then his face became serious. "Now die," he said again, and then cut off the demon's head, killing her on the spot. After that he gave a sigh and looked at Rias and the others. "This is not over yet. What do you think if we finish off the remaining magicians and meet with Gasper and the others?" Issei asked the Redeed, who nodded. "I was already waiting for this," Naya Kuroka said to launch herself at the magicians, being followed by the rest of the girls. "Tiamat," the brunette whispered so that the blue-haired girl would appear from a magic circle. "What do you need?" asked a dragon looking at the chestnut tree. "Just have fun," Issei responded smiling. At that Tiamat analyzes her surroundings and smiles. "So your suspicions were true," Tiamat said amused. The brunette just nodded. "Thank you for not leaving me out," said the dragon, and then gave the brunette a kiss, who gladly reciprocated. When Tiamat separated, she launched herself towards the wizards and along with her harem sisters, started massacring them. "What would you do, Sona?" Rias asked, looking at her friend. "We will also help," the black-haired woman responded to her friend. "Are my servants ready?" asked the president of the student council. "Yes, Kaichu," his entire entourage responded. "Then let's attack," said the black-haired woman as she marched forward, followed by her entourage, attacking the magicians. "We're going to, Ice," said Rias, looking at the brunette, who nodded. "Yes," answered the honey-eyed man. "Everything will end soon," said Issei, looking at the leaders, who nodded. After saying that, both Issei and Rias left for the battlefield, while the leaders stood up from their places and left there to see the fight closer. With Issei, the chestnut was flying over the battlefield watching how the magicians were defeated and began to retreat when suddenly he was hit, being sent to the ground. When he got up he saw Volley in the air. Seeing him on the ground, noticing this, everyone gathered together, standing behind him, while the leaders, except Azazel, looked at the hacker Yuiku in disbelief. "You gave me a good hit, Volley," Issei said smiling as he stood up. "I'm sorry, Issei, but being on this side is more fun," the albino responded to his rival. "So you are the traitor hacker Yuiku," said Rainer would be. "What do you mean, Rainer-senpai?" asked Kaneko, who, along with the others and Gasper, had joined the group a few moments ago. "You will soon know," Issei responded to the younger Nekomata. "Hey Volley, I would like to ask you a question," said Azazel, taking out his wings, standing in front of him. "And that would be?" the albino asked with curiosity. "My Vice Commander Shemazai discovered the existence of an organization that is gathering dangerous elements that could be a threat to the three factions." "How's Brigade?" Issei said, interrupting Azazel's words, who nodded. "That's right," said the fallen one in agreement with the chestnut tree's words. "How's Brigade?" Serzicha said thoughtfully. "Gathering dangerous items?" asked Serafal. "Hey, why didn't you tell me any of this vague stuff?" Penemu shouted, annoyed. "It might be because you were too busy with Issei," Azazel said, amused, making the cadre angry. "But if Ice-kun already knew about that organization, why didn't he tell us anything either?" Gabriel asked, looking at the brunette, who shrugged his shoulders. "I didn't see it necessary at that time," Issei replied. Since you didn't see it necessary, said Serafal and Penemu with annoyance. Calm down girls, both Issei and I had the situation under control. Rias intervened in the conversation. Did you know that? Akeno asked his friend, who only nodded. Why are you always the one who has to know everything? Rainer asked, reflecting her annoyance as well as some of the other girls, who looked at Rias in a bad way. This one she just smiled at them, so they all sighed. There was no point in getting angry, Rias was always one step ahead. It's not like we didn't tell them, said Rias, looking at the girls. Both Issei and I warned them that we could be attacked, the Redid finished saying, and none of them could refute anything. However, the leader has to be someone strong to control them, said Serafal. And it is, Issei said seriously. The leader is the Ouroboros dragon, said Azazel, and then Issei finished for him. Office, said the chestnut, surprising everyone. Is that why Issei mentioned Office earlier? Gabriel asked, looking at the brunette, who nodded. It is true that I joined Office, but unlike her I have no interest in this world or her plans for domination. People simply joined us because they wanted to use our strength, Vali said calmly. I see, and I thought that Kateria and you had conspired on this, said Azazel, understanding Vali's words taking into account that they both tried to take the throne of the original Demon King. Azazel finished, surprising some. The throne of the original Demon King, said Serafal without understanding. What do you mean by that? Zenobia asked confused. My name is Vali Lucifer, said the albino, surprising those who did not know. What? Serzicha said without believing it. Lucifer, said Zenobia with open eyes. It can't be, Ravel said in shock. The blood of the deceased Demon King runs through my veins. I am his direct descendant, the offspring of a pure demon and a human woman, Vali said proudly to those present, who were still amazed. That can't be, said Sona. I see with a human, that explains why she was in the dark, Serzicha said understanding. Although she is a blood descendant of the Demon King, she is also half-human, that is why she was able to host the vanishing dragon by pure coincidence, Azazel explained to everyone. I think the word miracle was created to define me, said Vali as he showed his demon wings. His wings, she said, surprised. He may be the most powerful hacker Yuiku that has ever existed, said Azazel looking at Vali. Hi, do Issei, do you think your destiny is cruel? Asked Vali. Oh, and why is that? Issei asked, amused. The blood of the ancient Mao runs through my veins, and in addition to that I also have the power of a dragon, one of the most powerful in the world. And you were only a human who was reincarnated as a demon, although now we are at a similar level, your own body limits you. Well, I will continue to improve, said Vali, looking at his rival from the air. Ahahaha, and you say it all proudly. You are not very different from your grandfather, Vali said the brunette, knowing that he hit where it hurts the most. But said Vali with annoyance, how dare you compare us, said the albino angrily. What do you mean, Naya? Kuroka asked with interest, then Rias takes a step forward and looks at Vali with a calm look. You are Vali Lucifer, grandson of Rizavam Livan Lucifer, and current hacker Yuiku, said Rias with a serious voice. But said Serzicha, surprised while the others were the same or worse. I see that I was not the only one who investigated, said Vali looking at the Redid. You're wrong about one thing, Vali, said Issei, drawing the attention of his rival once again. Oh, and in what? Asked the interested albino. It is true that I was human, but currently I am not only a demon, I am also a full-fledged dragon, and I am a unique one, said Issei smiling with confidence. And if I am not mistaken, now you want to fight with me, right? Rias asked, looking at the current hacker Yuiku. That's right, answered the wielder of divine dividing, who was going to speak but was interrupted by Issei before doing so. I refuse, said the brunette. That answer surprised most of them. How do you refuse? Vali asked incredulously. I do, we already fought, and you also don't have enough level to face me to the fullest, Issei said, smiling at Vali with superiority. What do you mean by that? Vali asked, and Waity answered, the albino shouted. Ahaha, you seriously thought that my power ended with the juggernaut? That was only 40% of my maximum power, Issei said, laughing amused. That answer left most of them in shock. That was only 40%, said Michael, coming out of shock. Do you underestimate me? Said Vali clenching his fists. On the contrary, I respect you, that's why during our fight, I put myself at your level to enjoy it, the brunette responded to his rival. But currently there is someone in this place that really interests me, Issei said again. Oh, and who would it be? Asked Vali. Ouroboros' office, I know you are here, show yourself, the chestnut said seriously, after saying that a blackish-purple vortex was formed from which the aforementioned emerged, who was floating a few meters from Vali. That's it, Lefay said surprised. Office said Tiamat would be. To think that he would take that form, Azazel said in the same way. So you noticed my presence, Sekirute said the stoic dragon goddess, but interest flashed in her eyes. Yes, I did, the brunette replied, starting to levitate to stand in front of the black-haired girl. Ice-kun is flying without wings, Irina said, reflecting everyone's shock when she saw him. Tell me, Haidu Issei, why do you have that power, that body? Office asked looking at the aforementioned. Who knows, everyone has their secrets, Issei responded enigmatically, but tell me why you formed the Cows Brigade. the brunette asked, while everyone watched the interaction carefully. To be able to defeat Great Red and be able to return to the peace of the dimensional gap, the black-haired girl responded simply, to which Issei shook his head. You know they're cheating on you, don't you? Issei asked, causing the dragon to raise an eyebrow. They are using your naivety and ignorance about the world so that you give them power in order to achieve their goals, Issei explained to the black-haired girl, who remained silent for a few moments. I don't care, as long as you help me with my goal, Office responded indifferently. That's the point, they will end up abandoning you, except for a few, Issei said, trying to make her see reason. Listen, I propose something, Issei said, drawing the dragon's attention. And that would be? Office asked, looking at Issei carefully. He came to live with me in my house, Issei said calmly. This statement made Office raise an eyebrow, and the others were surprised. It is a place where you can find the tranquility you are looking for, and you can also learn everything you want about it. World, people, emotions, feelings, and above all about me and being by my side. I know that you are interested in me, just as you are in me. I think it is an opportunity that you cannot miss, said Issei, looking at Office intently. You're right, Office said. Her emotionless eyes flashed with interest. But you still haven't answered my question, the black-haired woman said again. What do you think about this? Fight with me and I will tell you what you want to know, but if I manage to settle with it, you will accept my proposal. What do you say, Office? At Issei's words, the entire place fell into a deep silence until the dragon goddess broke it. It's okay, it will be interesting, the black-haired woman responded with an imperceptible smile, and that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. That was the general shout that was heard throughout the place. Office, you can't be serious, said Volley, being the first to come out of shock. Enough, Volley, it's decided, the black-haired girl responded seriously. But nothing, Volley, now go with the people down there and watch our fight, the dragon interrupted. Volley clicked his tongue, annoyed, but nodded, and her armor disappeared, going to Azazel's side. Ice, you can't do this, no matter how strong you are, please reconsider, Tiamat shouted worriedly. I won't do it, Tiamat, this is the only way I've found to see my limits, and I'm not going to back down now, Issei responded firmly. The blue-haired girl was going to refute, but was stopped by a hand. When she turned around, she saw Rias, who shook her head. Well, Office, let's get a little further away from here, Issei said, starting to walk away from the place. The dragon nodded and followed him. Well, girls, help me create a powerful barrier so that the academy does not suffer collateral damage. You too, Sona, Rias asked, giving a long sigh, while he looked at his friend, who nodded. Do you agree with this madness, Rias? Akeno complained, being followed by the other girls. Enough, Rias shouted to silence all of them, while the others looked at them. Of course I don't agree, but what? You want to stop him, you know that when he gets something into his head there is no way to convince him of it. Contrary, and even more so when it comes to a fight, Rias said firmly. Her words left the rest silent, since they knew she was right. Now help me create the barrier, Rias asked again. This time the girls and the Citri group nodded to then create the aforementioned barrier and protect the academy, after which absolutely everyone paid attention to Office and Issei, who were at a considerable distance but were still seen clearly, and the battle could be seen without problems. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.